Here are your free games with Prime in June.
Battleman and Beast for survival set in the Himalayas in the open-world action-adventure shooter Far Cry 4. Then, adventure to the high seas as Pirate Guybrush Threepwood in the point-and-click adventure Escape from Monkey Island. Join the WRC Championship to win the most challenging motor racing competition in the world. Build yourself a cat cafe of your dreams in the sim game Calico. Journey with the Astrologaster, who uses the stars to cure the sick in 1592 London. Then, follow Alice on a musical adventure in Across the Grooves. With Amazon Prime, you also get free shipping, videos, music, groceries, and more. Play your favorite games straight from the cloud on Amazon Luna. Go to gaming.amazon.com for all these free games and more. Go where the games take you.
Welcome back, everybody, to day number 1 of phase number 2 of season number 9 of the SMITE Pro League. Of course, powered by our friends over at Prime. If you haven't jumped in and grabbed all the benefits that your Prime membership has to offer, I'm not sure what you're doing. All of those free games, groceries, music, so much more available with your Prime membership. So shout outs to Prime for sponsoring us here in season 9 of the SPL. Excited to see the free games that myself and any other members will get moving forward throughout the year here this year. My name is Dolson. Gore Miser is with me on the desk. And Gore, I just got back from a trip from London, so I'm feeling like maybe the Astrologaster that takes place in 1592 in London is right up my alley. I think I have a slight edge in that game.
I like the name of that. Just as fun as it is to say, Astrologaster is maybe one of the coolest words that I've seen combined for something.
I've also never played Far Cry, so maybe now's my time.
There you go.
Because it's free with Prime this month. A 3-game set to start off phase number 2 here, where the Camelot Kings come out ahead. And a whole lot of action still to be had here this weekend, Gore. And our next matchup, absolutely one that I'm looking forward to. Now, if I told you, Gore, as we look at our schedule here for today, Warriors versus Leviathans, Dragons, Valks, and then Bolts versus Scarabs be the next 2 days of matchups, then, of course, a triple header over on Sunday. If I told you, all right, we're looking at the Oni Warriors and the Leviathans, a matchup of one team who finished near the top of the standings in Phase 1 and one team in the bottom half of the standings, history would tell us that it's the Leviathans who finished up top, right? And that the Warriors were the ones that struggled a little bit. Now, that was the case for Phase 1. The storyline during Masters may be a bit different. Point being, Warriors seemingly have found some success.
Not only have they found some success, I think that they're a team that we have to keep a close eye on, because not only were they very successful just in Phase 1 generally, they were successful against this team. They beat the Leviathans 2-1 in week 1. It's a long time ago, but it was still something that I think kind of blew everyone's mind. You come in and you get to see this team that no one was really riding high on, because the Warriors were a little shaky throughout last year. Granted, some of that, again, ping and things like that you have to deal with. But it was like this question of, okay, what are we going to get out of this crew? And then they come in week 1, 2-1 the Leviathans, kind of make a very blatant statement there, and through the rest of Phase 1 things are going their way. The downside is that was on different patches, right? Things were definitely being played slightly separately from what we're seeing in SMITE right now. You go back to Masters, they play the Leviathans, they only get 1 game against them, but that game's a loss, ends up knocking them down. They put up a good fight, I think, against the Titans, but it wasn't the run that the Warriors would have liked to have had throughout Masters. So it's what have they done in the last few weeks since that Masters appearance? How have they adapted to it? We've seen some changes. The Dragons come in. We're still playing some similar things that we saw find success during Masters, and some things that we saw admittedly not find success today, but did find success 2 weeks ago. So maybe it's going to be a little bit of a change-up, and I think a lot of that is going to be based around the carries, based around the hunters that we've been seeing lately.
Gore, I don't know what to do in a world where regular season Neoma team is super successful, and then tournament Neoma team struggles a little bit.
It's backwards.
Things feel a bit backwards. Wrong. And I'm saying that right in front of him. Neoma here with me.
He made a face, too.
Was it a bad face? Was it a bad face? Production wanted us to rap battle for this interview, and now you're probably hoping you had your chance, because you had absolutely mopped the floor with me. Let's talk a bit about that, Neil.
Sure.
A fantastic Phase 1 for the squad, what finished near the top of the league. Tough going at Masters. What do you think changed between the two events? Just a tough weekend? What's your take?
think we had a little bit of a weird read on the meta too. I think that there wasn't a whole lot of time to prepare. There was and there wasn't. It was like a whole new game. And so I think that some other teams just had a little bit better read on the meta. I think that's a big thing is we took a lot of time in this week off just to recreate what we want to be doing and just change our priorities a bit. And I think we're definitely on the right track.
Now, I do have to give myself a shout-out. We redrafted our caster fantasy teams for this phase. Nika's my solo laner, you're my support, and Chuckles is my coach. Did I make a mistake in picking you guys for my roster?
Yeah, I don't actually think we're better than any team. I think we probably aren't going to win any games,
No.
and there's really nothing we can do.
Unlucky for me in my fantasy points moving
Yeah,
forward.
for sure.
All right, let's talk a bit about your opponents today, the Leviathans. Honestly, kind of opposite from you guys, where they had a rough time over in Phase 1. You played them in Masters. They got the better of you there during Masters. Do you think they have really started to step up as a team and smooth over some of the issues that they had in the first phase?
I just don't think they had a lot of time off, more or less. I think they just used that 3 weeks to regroup a little bit, so I think you're going to see definitely a different Leviathans coming out now.
Yep.
And usually a lot of teams after Worlds, when they win, sleep a little bit the first phase.
Sure.
It's not the end of the world, so I don't think anyone should expect them to come out looking the same they did in Phase 1. Although the pressure is now on them to show
Right.
that they can step back up. But, I mean, they've always been a really solid team. And like I said, we have no shot of beating them, so it's really just unlucky for us.
Yeah, again, sad for me and my fantasy team and Warriors fans out there.
It's not looking good.
Yeah, unlucky. All right, Neil, get back with the team. Try to pull some points out for me here today.
No promises.
And best of luck.
Thank you.
Numa, I think they're all right. Go ahead, Gore. You had something.
I want you to know, when we drafted in Phase 1, I asked Neil and Cuvo directly how they were feeling about the phase and got the same response. So
Yeah,
that bodes maybe well for the Warriors and really well for your fantasy draft, because then I didn't pick them.
Yeah.
And Hindu grabbed Cuvo and had nuts points from him.
That is such a Neil Ma interview, though. Like, buried underneath the what is that? What's the term for that? Where you're kind of being facetious, I guess. Like, is that the right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
He's like clearly messing with me, but buried underneath that, he's like, yeah, we're still a pretty. He's sandbagging my fantasy team, says production. The team they're going up against, though, has improved greatly, and it is the Atlantis Leviathans. Fresh off a Worlds run, Gore, the Leviathans come out in Phase 1, don't have the results maybe that this team was looking for.
Yeah.
The results that they were hoping for. Hindu actually has a lot of them on his fantasy team, so he's hoping for a bit of a turnaround here in Phase 2. But Neil seems to think that this team has grown.
And I think that this is, exactly like what he said, right? First phase for the team that wins Worlds usually is a little slower. And it's not even like a fault of them as much as it is that it's just like you just spent a lot of time at the end of the year like grinding your life to get to that point. You take a little bit of a break. You're in Phase 1, admittedly, the phase that has like the least impact on the year, so it's not as big a deal for you if things don't go well. The most you're worried about is Masters, getting a heavier paycheck, things like that. Then you get into Phase 2, things start to stack up a little bit more. And so I expect, especially with a transition in what the meta has been, I expect a little more from this team coming into this. I think very similar to what Neil had said for the Warriors, is it felt like they didn't have the exact grasp on what was going to be the best meta that was kind of dictated at Masters. And now you've had a couple of weeks to play on this. Some of the nerfs have gone through, whether Zap's happy about it or not. And so you get to find out, is this going to be the chance for you to kind of transition? I think a lot of the tanks that are available, like we've seen Wrong U play some of the most nutty things in the world, the biggest transition, and we know Hardcore can play literally anything because that was like the whole thing last year. That's every interview he would remind us in case we forgot. And so it's just what's going on in solo lane, what's going on in the jungle. I think those are going to be very like important roles for this team.
In an interview laced with sarcasm, one thing Neil said is absolutely true, and so you can never count the Leviathans out of any type of games, any type of matchups. Too talented of a team. Wrong You, support for the Atlantis Leviathans, with me now for the pregame interview. Wrong You, thanks for joining me first and foremost.
Hi.
So Phase 1, probably not the initial start to the year that you guys were hoping for. A better look at Masters, though. Between Masters and now, whether it's VOD review, practice, what types of things have you guys focused on to improve your game?
Probably we have a little bit of more practice. We're like more open into like new gods and maybe more strategies. But with the meta, I think we're kind of adapting well this time. So, new phase, new Leviathans.
Yeah, how about the meta right now? Because even in our first set here, we still saw triple ADC composition from the Dragons. Support meta, maybe specifically. Do you feel like much has changed from Masters to now?
Not really. Pretty much it's just the same lame gods and the same bats.
All right, so maybe still some emojis, some stuff like that from you,
Yeah.
if it doesn't end up getting banned out. Your opponents today, the Oni Warriors, you guys matched up with them in Phase 1, of course, and then during Masters, got the better of them during Masters. What's your focus today to take down the Oni Warriors?
Pretty much probably ourselves. Maybe
Yep.
if we secure some coups, someone gets his purple, will
Right.
be good.
Pick more hunters and pick some bans.
I
things
mean,
like that.
if we have hardcore hunter,
That's true. Maybe you guys are one of the most equipped teams for hunters
Yeah.
over in the solo lane. Who knows? Thanks for the time. Excited to see what you guys get done this phase, and best of luck in your matchup.
Thank you.
It's actually a really good point. In a meta where hunters maybe are over in the solo lane, Gore, one of the best hunters in the world who happens to also play solo lane might be a good spot to pick some of those.
Yeah, I think that's going to be like a huge pressure point for them. We've been seeing a lot of Chernobog over there as well, like people who can be a hunter but also then transport themselves across the map. Like
Apollo solo.
honestly, I was going to say like it's one step away from potentially having something like the Apollo. I mean, with some of the attack speed builds, like I wouldn't hate it. Plus, you get like a blue buff because for your mana, so when you're in your ult, you don't feel bad when you go landing. I don't know. It could happen, except it's a lot slower of a transport.
Does that look like a team that's ready to play Smite to you?
Look at Cuvo is so relaxed. That
Okay,
team.
so Nika, again, my solo laner on my fantasy team, upright, ready to go. Happy about that. On the flip side, though, Neo, full relaxation and laying back. A little less excited about that. Chuckles, of course, the coach, again, my fantasy team coach, upright, ready to go in the back. So 2/3 of my Warrior fantasy players are looking a bit mentally prepared. And the one, of course, Neil, maybe a bit relaxed. But maybe that's what you want going into a matchup like this.
Neil to be relaxed?
Just the whole team. Dardez's eyes were literally closed in the chair just now. Of course, we're joking around this.
This is what we like to call theory crafting, which is that Chuckles is saying, "Hey, this is what you guys need to do, and what we need to talk about."
We got to get into Zen, right?
And everybody else is like, "Yeah, you're right. Like, we're gonna do that. We're gonna beat these guys." Or
in that tone of voice,
or they're just snoozing. That could also be.
Yeah, I mean the matchups abound in this. I was gonna say matchup twice. I ended up saying it twice anyway. In this head-to-head set, Gore, I look at all of the lane matchups and what we could see, the theory crafting in all seriousness, pretty important across the board here as we go into picks and bans for game number 1. Leviathans find themselves in first pick. Of course, the Oni Warriors then will be picking a couple of picks. Second, Hardcore Gore over in solo lane up against Nika. I think one of the most exciting solo lane matchups in the SPL in general, especially with the way that the Oni Warriors and Nika himself have been playing here recently. But it's not like those Warrior-style picks anymore. We saw variety on King Arthur, and then what did we get? We got Ratatoskr, is he technically slotted as an assassin, but can be built kind of as a warrior. A bunch of hunters from Fine OK today. So there has been a unique god pool over in solo lane, and so this matchup between Nika and Hardcore looks different than how it has in the past. AMC banned away, so is the Ullr, so is the E-set. Baron, Erlang Shen, and Yamoja. I cursed wrong you there a bit. Yamoja still too strong, and they won't let him pick it.
Yeah, it's someone that was banned each time by the Dragons. Like, I feel like Yamoja's just in that area of like, hey, she still does enough, right? Like, it maybe isn't like the game changer for everything, but she's been able to provide more than plenty of opportunities, and Wrong You is too good at that god to let through. I think the thing that's interesting is you can see the Leviathans. I think those all feel very meta-specific. The Baron feels pretty meta-specific. Erlang feels Panatom-specific more than it feels meta-specific. I know we just saw the Kings have a really good game with it, but it hasn't been super prominent as a god choice lately. So that feels like something that it is, okay, Panatom likes this god. We know it can still work out really well. Let's try to clip their wings a little bit where we can and shut them down by taking away a jungler.
Now, we had the junglers in studio on Wednesday this week.
Yes.
And both of these two picks, if I remember correctly, were in that, quote, meta-defining category, towards the top of the tier list. Mercury has been so strong. The Golden Blade Assassins have just been the priority for these junglers, and now both get one. Nemesis, of course, for Panatom, and the Oni Warriors will snag Mercury for Cuvo Fred. Both junglers that can get active, maybe starting towards level 5 for Mercury. Could be a tad earlier for Nem, but you really want to get that ultimate online. And then 2 of the priority support picks locked in here, Gore. It seems like both teams are getting exactly what they want in the first draft.
So this is where curiosity pays off. I was wondering, because we saw it a little bit earlier, I was looking at where Sam was on like games played for Mercury and like grand scheme. Number 2, by the way, just because I was like, he's played a lot of Mercury.
In history
In
ever?
history.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Adapting has more Mercury games than him, and that's it. But it also, like, because we get win rate, we get KDA, things like that. And so lucky for me, I still have Mercury numbers pulled up. Unfortunately, Cuvo very far down the list.
Did you have to move the page down?
I did not have to move the page down, but he is just one off of me having to move the page down. Not a great win rate. Only 6 games, but he's only won 2 of them. So it's not a god that has really historically been, and like, that's a big deal, I think, is the best way to describe it. For someone like Cuvo, right? If I'm talking Panatom, 6 games on a Mercury over like 3 years in the SBL isn't maybe that crazy. But when you're talking about Cuvo, who's been playing since it feels like the dawn of time for SMITE, 6 games on any individual god, especially competitively, is impressive, but unfortunate that only, you get a 33% win rate. So not someone that he's played a whole ton competitively, not someone that has found a lot of success, but this is a much more meta Mercury time than it was before, right?
Definitely
so
further in the meta
better.
now. Agreed. I still think, despite the data maybe being against Cuvo
In
Fred.
fact, I'd say damn the data here. I think Cuvo's going to have a good game.
No, you've either doomed him or he's going to overcome your caster's curse and have a fantastic game. We'll see how strong Cuvo Fred's storyline is. I sure don't, Gore. Morgan and Artemis both banned out. Kabrakan and Olgaran also taken away. So we've gotten junglers locked in. We've gotten supports locked in. In theory, we've gotten hunters locked in. But this one's unique, Gore.
Yeah.
Because Jingwei has just been over in the duo lane every time it's been picked. But so has Freya. I don't think when Freya's been picked, especially in like a double hunter, double ADC, double range damage composition, I'm not used to seeing Freya go towards mid. But that's maybe where Freya's going to have to go.
I'm pretty sure competitively the only role I've seen Freya in that wasn't in the long lane was in the jungle, and she's not able to do that as much anymore, man. Like, that has been stripped away. That's not happening.
I don't know if you want a Jingwei in mid more than you want a Freya in mid, I think it's awkward.
That's a
Does this?
I think I do prefer Jingwei in mid. Like, if that's my circumstances, I would prefer that, but I'm not happy about it.
I'm not thrilled. But if you're the Oni Warriors, obviously there's the ability to get active early. You hit level 5 with Mercury. Ymir has some good lockdown there. You can get active early in this game, but you look at these picks later on, already it's a very strong late game composition for the Oni Warriors.
Yeah, look, you could cover up any 3 of those gods, and you're like, well, this is going to feel really good in the late game. Like, Ymir walls and freezes later on feel awesome. Mercury punches. He's going to 2 to 3 tap people. Jingwei, same way. And, of course, the Freya, same way. This makes me happy because, all right, so the minute we said it, you started talking about, what about
Soa?
Freya mid? What if this is Nika? Nika plays some wild things on stream. What if it's a Freya solo? And I realize I just asked you the question. I should answer that instead, because that's kind of my job.
Because my answer would be, yeah, it could be. That'd be weird, right? I don't know, Gore. I mean, X-Ball,
Man,
Freya,
wait, that's
Jingwei.
what I was going to say.
X-Ball, Freya, Jingwei. I kind of want all 3 of those over in the duo lane, right? I want all of them.
And you know what? Theoretically, you could do a 3-1-1 lane, have really garbage farm in the quote-unquote duo lane. The long lane, nobody gets ahead. Everyone falls behind because you put 3 carries over there.
Yep.
Ymir's crying in solo.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Merc, I guess, and you just don't have a jungler then.
Yeah, I don't know. This one difficult to predict, Gore. Especially because X-Ball and Jingwei feel a bit more standard, right? I mean, standard ADC. So I would assume one of those 2 is solo, and the other one is over in the duo lane. Freya then maybe towards mid. I don't know.
I can
We'll
say
see.
something for certain about this Oni
Okay.
Warriors comp. It doesn't matter
Ymir
where they
is
go.
support.
In 23 minutes of gameplay, after that point, this team's gonna hurt, dude. I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter where you are, what lane you're playing, what the matchup up to that point has been. Like, as long as you get a little bit of farm for the Freya, the X-Ball, the Mercury, and the Jingwei, every single one of them's gonna shred. That 23 minutes, if it's like a really atrocious early game, can be flexed to like 25. But like, the longer it goes, the better this is for the Warriors.
Well, look, we talked about hardcore playing solo, playing hunters in solo. Gonna get to do it this game in all likelihood with a Chernobog, and we've seen the rotation power out of that. Now, it's gonna feel like a dual lane matchup for hardcore, we assume. You got an ADC up against an ADC, Hunter versus Hunter. The rest of that draft, though, Nem, Khepri, and Poseidon Gore, there's a lot of setup and a lot of utility, as I've been saying today, utility in that composition, in theory, for shutting down 4 very squishy characters.
A lot more standard in there as well, right? Like, you've got your mage, you've got Burst, you've got the Nemesis, who has been on fire today to the point where it had to get banned in that last game in the last set. And the Chernobog, I think, is the most outlandish, but with the rotations that we've seen from these Hunters, I have a lot of hope in it. So I think that that's going to be something that they have to match up. It's a very squishy composition on the side of the Warriors that is going to be dealing into a lot of heavy hitters, and like you said, I look at that Poseidon, I look at a Khepri, I see a lot of setup and a lot of potential to two-shot, to one-shot maybe if you get a good Kraken, 2 to 3 people on the other side if they just happen to be stacked up in the wrong way.
I'm hoping, again, I'm going to be selfish here. For fantasy team purposes, I'm hoping this is not the like 0-4 Neoma Ymir game that happens every. Like he's due for like 1.
0-4 is tame. Like some of the there's been some worse Neoma games. Hold on.
This is the first 5 minutes of the game we're talking about here.
Okay,
Oni Warriors versus the Leviathans. Game number 1 starts right now.
What a way for these two teams to kick everything off. We get, a couple of double/triple Hunter compositions coming out of here. It's going to be Nika on the Jingwei. We were wondering where all of these Hunters were going to line out. It's J-Mac, Charlie, and Doug here for game number 1 of our second set. Nika, Jingwei, Dardes on the Shibalanke mid, and then Vote. Gonna be piling the Freya, a guy we haven't seen in quite some time, Charlie.
Yeah, free teleport, man. That's why Nika's got the Jingwei. It makes sense.
True.
Yeah, he will simply fly to lane, and he still gets the safety of being able to get beads, but he said, I don't even want beads. I'm going to get shell. So that's the plan. I assume anytime, a gank comes his way, he will simply just pop the shell, ult away if need be, and I don't imagine that Panatom really wants to try to gank a Jingwei because it seems like a waste of time to me. Once she hits 5, of course, maybe a cringe gank early before that point, but at level 5, I just don't imagine it's going to be very fruitful to head over there.
I mean, it kind of feels like it's maybe even harder to gank Jingwei over in the short lane. She doesn't have to go as far to get to those towers. You also don't have to worry about a second body to deal with to try and lock them down. So maybe it is just a little bit tougher over on that side. So if you are the Leviathans, at least looking at this strange comp, and if you're a Panatom, maybe where you start trying to put some of that early pressure.
Yeah, in duo lane on the Freya, because she's a Freya and is a Freya.
That's it. It's a Freya. Just kill the Freya.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be the option, right? I mean, you got Zapman on Hou-Yi, who destroys that matchup for quite some time, and I say quite some time because I do mean quite some time. There's not going to be any real opportunity for Freya to fight back until I'd say 3 total items, and then you have to avoid a ricochet at all costs, and yeah, you probably are wanting to beats every time the suns get dropped on you or going into your own ult. So I just imagine duo lane pressure, try to put Vote behind, because if he gets online, you got a Jingwei, you got a Mercury. I mean, the desk highlighted. There's lots of auto attackers on that team. You don't want to let it late game.
I mean, it really comes down to the old school kind of hyper carries. It's something that we talked a lot about in earlier years of SMITE, the hyper carry god. It's, we didn't really see 40, 45-minute games all that often, so when they did get there, these gods like Freya, like Mercury, even kind of Rom back in those days, you didn't want them to get to that point. Well, now we get to that point a little bit sooner, and the Uni Warriors have drafted a few of them, namely, again, the Mercury and the Freya.
And Shibalanke was in the topic of conversation.
Yeah.
Remember, his old passive was every time he got a kill, he got stacking power, so you'd have to, you could roast your teammates if they didn't let you get last hits on Shibalanke, because it actually buffed your passive and made your late game even better. But now his passive's changed. It's still good, just,
still good.
Now you're not allowed to roast your teammates for not letting you get last hits anymore. I enjoyed that.
Oh, man. Oh, unfortunate that I don't get to yell at my teammate for stealing my kill. Truly an unfortunate time.
Well, now the only time you can do that is with Kali. Now it actually makes sense. Like, hey, that's my passive. I get extra gold. It's more beneficial that I have that. You now have an argument to make only with your Kali. Either way, I think that the Oni Warriors are going to be pretty happy if they don't have to fight, right? Cuvo doesn't really want to force any fights unless he really has a good opportunity, some beats are down, some ults are down, something like that. The Warriors are fine with just sitting back and saying, we will simply meet you at late game. The Leviathans, a team that are known for also doing that. You know, they don't mind going down like 2,000, 3,000 gold in the early. They don't mind saying, hey, we're not going to really fight that much either. We're confident in our late game team fight. With the comp they've drafted, they can match that late game pretty well. They have the Chernobog. They've got a Nemesis who's only going to get better. Kraken's never going to lose its value. And, of course, Zapman on the Hou-Yi.
For those who do remember back into the early parts of Season 8 of the SPL, Yarkor was the hunter for the Leviathans before moving back to the solo lane. So back, I can't say in his, in his native role, at least with that kind of a pick, because he was a solo laner before jumping in to Season 8 as well. But who better to have on a hunter than a former hunter player? And speaking from personal experience, fighting against Yarkor on this god in particular, I can say he's pretty good at it.
I'm actually so angry now because Shinto started the Tier 2 Restored Artifact. This is only going to make sense if you were here for the SCC, but
we're back on this one.
Yeah, we saw Vrez go the Tier 2 Restored Artifact and then not go for the Charon's Coin that we all assume. This time around, Shinto is going for that Charon's Coin, trying to get those stacks online, which makes a lot of sense to me. And this is what I thought people would start doing, right? If you are going to be this mage in the mid lane up against something like a Xbalanque, you want to get those Charon's Coin stacks. You're not really too pressed on getting damage online right now. You're not looking to fight. So just getting that Charon's Coin early, forego your starter item. Maybe we'll see Shinto pick up the Sands of Time, maybe wait until level 20 and get the Bumba's Hammer. There's a few different avenues to try and build this Poseidon, but getting that Charon's Coin online early, make sure those stacks really start adding up.
Level 5s for both the junglers and both the mid laners. A fight over the mid camps will go over to the Oni Warriors at the very least. We did see that Sonic Boom at least charged up in passing jest maybe by Cuvo just to try and scare Leviathans back a little bit, but there is a set of beads at least on Shinto. None for Panatom, so maybe keep your eyes on a potential rotation coming from Cuvo to try and shut down the mid laner of the Leviathans. But the duo lane finally hitting level 5 on this side, and want to kind of put a little highlight towards that. We've been seeing kind of the rise of Cal more than anything for a lot of these hunters, but Zapman feels like he's going back in time as we're seeing Death's Toll and now at Shortbow Tier 1.
Yeah, I've actually seen this build a bit in ranked as well, the Death's Embrace upgrade. Not the Death's Temper, not that big healing. The Death's Embrace is going to give you, the Death's Temper rather, is going to give you a lot of attack speed late game if you do go towards that upgrade. I'm not sure if that's what Zap will be going for. He's got a few different options. The Itch of All start, more often than not, is what you are going to see with this first item. Atlantis Bow still could be an option. There's so many different builds right now.
Right.
It's hard to just nail one down and say, Leather Cow, Transcendence, that's what you should be building. We see 3 of those at the moment. Nika already back and finished the Transcendence as well as Yarkor, so they're going to be matching stacks there. Dardez hasn't quite been able to back up and start stacking his Transcendence, and Zap, he simply won't buy one, at least not first item anyways.
I mean, what was it, game 1 of the Dragon set earlier, we saw 5 hunters and 5 different builds come from those same 5 hunters, so you never know what's going to be thrown out here amongst anything. We've been seeing Transcendence and Atlantis Bow kind of become popular, so we'll see what ends up getting picked up. It is 3 sets of Transcendences, at least between Nika, Dardez, and Yarkor, so they're going to get a nice little boost of power, but maybe the more interesting of the 4 rings out there for Vote, he starts with Hastened Ring.
Oh yeah, you need Hastened Ring to even try and outbox anyone right now, so I think Vote's smart to prioritize that early. It makes your survivability better. You can trade auto attacks. You can simply not pop your 1 and just do the slow auto and run around in circles, whatever you really want. Wrong you. Gonna take some damage here, but no real follow-up. Again, the Xbalanque has some damage with the Transcendence online, but not gonna be, not gonna be swinging too hard at the moment until it gets stacked up. Vote though could be in some trouble.
Ult from Panatom, but up in the skies is Vote. He'll be able to land back in his Tier 1 tower. Zapman and Panatom will not continue to chase towards that Tier 1. Those still do hurt in this early stage. So for now, Vote just losing, trading out ult for, well, 1 ult in that case.
Yeah, I was really surprised the Suns didn't get dropped there, or me die, but the Suns were not up. And it looks like Vote did not want to use the beads there either. Smart play to hold on to those because it wasn't necessary. It's really hard to try and dive the tower. Panatom is never going to dive the tower there because the Banish underneath the tower pretty much just makes sure that there's no kill opportunity and you're probably going to be dying because towers absolutely swing right now.
Yeah, towers do still hurt at least a decent bit in the early game for some of these squishier gods, not able to tank up nearly as many shots. But as we've hit the 7-minute mark, we've seen passable action at most. That's the most that we've seen right now. Passable action. We've seen 1 ult traded for 1 ult, and that's just about it. Yarkor used his earlier on, thought maybe he would try and join the fray on that left side, but once Vote did hit that Tier 1 tower, that all kind of just petered itself out.
Yeah, that's what you come to expect. I do think it's smart to throw some pressure into this duo lane. Again, trying to make sure that Vote has those beads down or the ult down at any given point. We'll make sure there's a free gank, but Vote's very smart. And remember, use the ult, held onto the beads. If he uses the beads, he'll probably hold onto the ult. He's trying to make sure he's safe in this lane because he knows how hard Freya will come online. Not right now. I'd say 3 rings is the go button for me. If you see a Freya with the the hasten ring, the telekines, and the demonic grip, or just any sort of 3 attack speed items in general, that's gonna help you out though.
Neil's gonna find a big wall to hold them out. The slow's not gonna stun them down enough. Finally, first blood will go over to the Leviathans, and it's Zapman who's gonna grab them by jumping in with that dive bomb. And finally, 8 minutes and 15 seconds in, we're gonna see the first death.
One of the coolest named abilities is Hoyi's jump, because it really is just a leap, but when you do use it like that to actually dive bomb onto someone and get the confirmation for the kill, well, that thought Q-Buster beats you, the crack gets dropped, and Shinto's trying to steal away this farm.
Cuvo will be able to find a way out. Does lose those beats, as you mentioned. Charged up the Sonic Boom, but not anything more than that. Rongyu stealing away some of these offerings away from the Oni Warriors to get that Trebuchet stacked up and ready as soon as possible. Rongyu will be slowed down by Dardes, who's made a rotation over towards this dual lane. Vote finds a nice banish. Rongyu does throw the dash, and what a ricochet by Zapman. That's going to stop Vote in his tracks instantly. No further aggression by the Warriors.
But Dardes is going to send some auto attacks back just to make sure that there's not too much aggression in this lane. Shinto is just building full movement speed as far as I can see. Obviously, Charon's coin and Doom, we're going to make sure that you can farm very quickly. And if you're looking, that's a level 11 Poseidon. Dardes is trying to rotate around, help his teammates out, and he's going to be getting behind in farm. Just ticks over to level 10. Cannot match the presence of Poseidon right now, especially with the Bumba Spear, which again will probably be upgraded to that Bumba's Hammer late game or the Bumba Spear, whichever one you really want to go for. Just be able to farm efficiently, spam your 2 as much as you want because you're getting HP and mana sustain every time you clear these camps anyways.
Shinto gonna at least forfeit one of his mid waves, but he was able to grab the Oracle Harpies and the red buff, and he'll be able to get a green buff. So I'd say probably experience-wise evens out, maybe even a little bit better for him, able to take those ones out. So he will be sitting at least at the top of the XP chart for his team. Net worth gonna be slightly in favor of Yarkor, as he's obviously been able to solo pretty much everything of his own on this right side.
Yeah, only using the ult for vision. Usually when you see these Chernobyls in the solo lane, if you get them to ult away, that's your time when you can farm up. But Yark just goes up to the sky and says, you guys good? Okay, I'm going back down. I'm gonna continue farming. I'm trying to hit level 12, and he does it record time, level 10 and level 12. Rongyu, though, gets freaked out.
Rongyu frozen, surrounded by 4, can't find a path out. Will have to use his own revive to come back through. Kraken, though, will slam Neil as soon as he gets out of that ultimate. Everybody low on the side of the Warriors. Vote is the only healthy one. Panatom goes in, finds 2 instantly. Double kill for the jungler of the Leviathans, and it could be an easy triple as soon as Vote lands right back down from the sky. Shinto will grab that one away, and the Leviathans start off early with 4.
And now they're going to look for this Gold Fury here unless Dardes is going to stop them. Panatom's running over to Dardes saying, there's no way I'm letting you anywhere near this Gold Fury. Nika's going to steal away some camps in the back, but he can't make that rotation either. He's diving tower for this.
Panatom will at least use the shield to get rid of some of the poison damage, but can't stick around that tower. You can see how much it is already swinging, and that Trebuchet pushing up in the mid lane should mean a potentially free tier 1 tower now for the Leviathans, already up 3,000 gold with grabbing that Gold Fury. Add another 500, assuming that this one goes down. We're going to be sitting at nearly 4,000 up for the Leviathans in just 11 minutes trailing.
Yeah, and the Trebuchet is going to help out, and that will go the way of the Leviathan. So remember how we touched on the fact that the Oni Warriors comp, not the greatest early game, and they really want to get to late game, not being too far behind. So far, not looking so good. I mean, this is a 3,000 plus gold lead for the Leviathans, only 11 minutes in. 4 kills going their way, spread out throughout the board. No one's really ahead except for Nika right now in the solo lane because he didn't have to make the rotation over. I mean, he could have, it would have helped out, but he decided not to. Didn't think he could match the presence of Yarkor getting there instantly with that ultimate, and stole a little bit of farm and got to level 13. It's going to be fine, but still that Jingwei not quite online, not going to help out enough in these team fights. Really looking to get to that level 20. It's going to be rough right now. The Leviathans have all the pressure in the world. Pyromancer, I would not be surprised if it looks at here, but Panatom is looking for more.
Panatom does drop a ward alongside Rongyu at the Fire Giant pit. Not that they were going to pull the fire, but the Pyro is always an option, especially when you've got so much damage and attack speed thrown just in your builds early on. Pyromancer should go the way of the Leviathans unless some miraculous play out of nowhere stops this one. Another objective goes to the Levi's, and this early game has been starting off well for them. A lot of that pressure, as we were talking about, maybe even as the desk highlighted, of putting pressure in that dual lane, keep Neilma down. You don't want Neilma to have any kind of fun on this Ymir. Hasn't quite started the 0-4 in 5 minutes thing, but 0-2 right now. It's still not in the best position.
Yeah, I would say 0-2 is definitely not where you want to be, but if it is going to be wrong, you hold that thought. Does have to dash away, and it's going to be in some trouble here.
Sonic Boom there, but off the mark by Cubo. Will still throw it through the crack. It does slam Cubo, and one more auto after from Shinto. Will take down Cubo. Fred Wrong Yu is doing just fine. Now into this tier 1 tower. Shinto one hit away, but a good revive from Wrong Yu will make sure to get the mid laner out of danger.
Yeah, Vote is already doing crazy amounts of damage. It was a great revive there as Pantom's probably going to try and chase this one down. The Vote is available, and that might not be enough.
Well, does pop the shield, turns it back around to Dardas. Pantom knocked up. The airstrike just off the mark. Zapman in the midst of all of them with the Suns. A good wall by Neil will delay Zapman from walking back. But Wrong Yu with the body blocks make sure that none of those crits potentially hit Zapman.
Yeah, I mean, Vote was just hitting so much damage was the point I was trying to make there. Beautiful revive, obviously, by Wrong Yu, making sure to keep everyone alive. And Zap probably not wanting to take this 1v1 trade. There's a full wave in front of you and not really that much HP to try to just defend this tier 1 tower here. But, you know, we're seeing some whispers of what this fray is going to look like late game. All those auto attacks hitting. If you do have this hasten ring, you're able to just run anyone down. And that's only with one ring and a tier 1, what I can only assume is going to be a Spear of the Magus or, you know, a Divine Ruin, something. Any sort of flat pen item there is going to go a long way for you. Either way, with more items comes much more damage on this fray.
Yeah, Freya, always known to be that god who needs a few items. Nika going to need maybe a few extra bodies to help him out. Panatom goes under the tower, pops the shield. Nika is fighting back. But Yarkor is there with the 1-2 combo, and that puts number 6 on the table for the Levi's.
And that should be another tier 1 tower dropping, but Yarkor doesn't want to stick around too late. Knows that maybe Cuvo could be coming around with that Sonic Boom, and is sort of posturing this way with the help of... No, they're going to back off. I was going to say maybe Neil's going to make that rotation over soon, but trying to force onto a level 15 Yarkor, not going to be your best option here. Cuvo's just going to hide and then try to clear the wave and save this tower. He does not want to fight right now. With just tier 1 Rage, actually, there is no stacks on that Rage. That's just Rage and tier 1 Shuriken. He's going to try and body block those autos, but he could die.
Yeah, I wouldn't body block too many autos, and Vote does find a double banish under the tower. Dardes under fire by Shinto, and a third man now with the help of this Chernobog will make sure that Vote's got to use all of his relics and his ultimate just to survive the engagement.
I mean, that's pretty tough to try and live that long as a Frey. If you don't hit that double banish, I don't think Vote lives that long. Even help over from Yarkor to try and dive that one. So props to Vote for able to survive there. And the tier 1 tower will live to see another day. But Shinto is getting so aggressive in that mid lane as well. When you look and see a level 16 Poseidon, he can do that. He can just send his Krakens out. No one's really that close. And even more movement speed, J-Mac. The Toxic Blade now. Definitely one of the quickest characters on the map when that try-in is popped. And Shinto is just trying to zoom anywhere he wants, really.
Oh, yeah. He's got the zoomies on right now. He is ready to travel anywhere across the map at a moment's notice. Level 16 tied for highest level in the game with his solo laner Yarkor. The Leviathans have started this game out strong. A 6,000 gold lead, 15.5 minutes into the game already. XP, just about everybody has some kind of a lead in their lane, whether it be only a 1-level lead or, as we can see over in the duo in mid lane, 2 levels separating those two.
Yeah, I imagine that if there is going to be any fighting on the right side of the map, Vote's probably not going to want to join that. Anytime he can just sit in lane and just sit back and farm, I think that's what the Oni Warriors want, right? Try to get this fray online, try and stop the bleeding, if you will. The gold lead is climbing very quickly. If they could just slow that down a little bit, Pantom and Wrong Yu, though, trying to put some pressure onto this left line. The Fury's up, but they're not going to pull it just yet. Now that they scared him off, they'll go for this.
Well, it is covered by the ward vision of the Oracle Harpy, so the Warriors know this is happening. The Primal Fury is going down fast. The Oni Warriors do manage to steal that one away. A great whoop at the end by Vote, an ultimate by Panatom, and an ult by Yarkor to try and get into the midst of the fray. But this level 17 Chernobog is one that you do not want to trifle with.
Yeah, that was just one auto attack from Dardas. Turn off the lights, and that was all it took. A very ranged auto attack, making sure to confirm that Fury. So that will help stop the bleeding, as I mentioned, as Nika gets a tower on the right side of the map as well. That's going to help at least climb back into this game a little bit. 4,000 gold lead, not what you want, but it could be much worse if that Fury did not go their way. So the Oni Warriors still trying to stop this a little bit. Not really looking to get aggressive here as Zapman finds a good stun, but Neil wrapped around, gets Zapman's beats.
Immediate beads pop through, wall to slow down Zap yet again, but Vote and Neil do not want to continue that chase, even though they know that Yarkor's ultimate is not online right now. Panatom finds Cuvo in a 1v1 into the jungle. Cuvo trying to find any path out, gets the dash on a Panatom, rooted back, and yanked down as Yarkor picks up the kill.
Yeah, they must have known there was no vision there, and Cuvo had no idea that Panatom was waiting around the corner. No There's no Warriors around for this one, so no steal will be coming through. The Pyromancer will go the way of the Leviathans as Panatom continues just trying to find someone else to kill at this point, just running around the map, sitting around corners, getting so aggressive. We've only seen 2 successful kills go the way of Panatom, but 4 assists. He's been looking for just about anything.
And talking about the Leviathans, in general, we stressed it kind of at the end of our death segment from the previous set. It was talked about on the death segment going into this set, between Gore and between Davis. Phase 1 Leviathans is not something that we were used to. I mean, this was the former world champions, very dominant performance at the end of their year, even coming into the play-in tournament, a very potent and a very dominant team. And then their Phase 1 performance was kind of lackluster comparatively, finishing only 6th seed whenever it came down to the end of it. Didn't really have the best Masters performance either. So we were kind of wondering, is that all that we're going to see of the Leviathans? What more do these guys have, or was that all they had in the tank? Well, it seems they've answered the question, at least here on day 1 in this first game to start things out. Leviathans are back, for now.
Yeah, I never questioned whether or not they could play at this level. It was more so just could they adapt to the meta, in many interviews, Rongyu, for example, went on record to say that they were just having some trouble adapting to the meta. They're trying to learn the best they can, and right now, it seems like they got a pretty good handle on things. Fire Giant is up, and we see a grouping of all 5, but Shinto actually is heading back to base here, and Zap will as well, so it looks like the Fire Giant call not on the cards just yet. They're going to actually send that Trebuchet to the left, maybe push a few more waves. And by that point, I imagine Shinto and Yarkor will both tick over to level 20. And then maybe you go for that Fire Giant. I wonder who's going to hit it first. They've been pretty much on pace this whole game, both staying about the same levels ahead of their counterparts. But Nika has also been farming quite well. Level 19 for this Jingwei. Hasn't made a rotation over to any of these fights, really.
They've been sitting neck and neck on the experience for those 2 hunters. Even Nika very close to hitting that level 20 with the Jingwei. So we see triple crit picked up by Nika to kind of round out his build for the moment. Still has 1 more item slot, and then obviously to upgrade that starter after. Now, earlier this morning, we saw 3 shells on a team and 3 shells on another. And we're seeing 3 shells on the Leviathans, but we're seeing 4 shells on the Oni Warrior. Trelly, I don't want to say tell me shell is good without telling me it's good, because we don't need to. There's 7 of them in this game.
Yeah, but that's usually against full auto attack compositions. There's a Poseidon on the map, J-Mac, with Soul Reaver, with some Doom Orb and Charon's Coin. There's a lot of ability damage and a lot of burst damage. If Shinto is on point, these shells are not going to save you. Dardes, for example, is going to have to beads and dash away. There's just no way you're going to be living through that. And Shinto and Yark both do tick over to level 20 as Dardes runs away. Panatom might be trying to blink here, but once he saw Cuvo, decided to back off.
I didn't pay attention to which of the 2 hunters hit 21st.
It was close. I couldn't tell either.
They were right there with each other. Nika just now hits it, so he's 3rd in this race at the very least, going amongst there. All just aside, but no, I mean, you're right to highlight. You're going up against Poseidon. It's known that usually once that level 12 hits and everybody can start picking up their Aegises, that's when that Kraken becomes less valuable as far as the kind of kill confirm, more so a relic burner, and then eventually into just objective secure. And if I'm looking across the board for the Warriors, they don't really have any good objective secure on their side.
Yeah, I mean, your best bet right now is a crit from any of these ADCs, or, no, there's no way. I was going to say, Neil's fully charged ult isn't even doing as much as a crit from Cuvo or Nika or Dardes right now, so I imagine that's what you're looking for. And now that Nika gets that Envenom Deathbringer, that's probably your best confirm. Just, pop your 2 and hope you get a crit to try and set that up. Neil going to go for the freeze on a Panatom. Not too much damage his way, just will be able to dash that one away. Looking at where Zap is right now, more so focused on the Gold Fury. The Fire Giant is still available, but I don't think the Leviathans are still ready to go for it. They're going to let this game go out a little bit longer, which gives Vote a little bit more time to get those items online. All of the ADCs, really, from the Oni Warriors, but my eyes are still going to have to be on Vote here. Just 1 more item. I think that if he does go into what I can only imagine is the Typhon's Fang in that slot, that would help out a ton. And Lifesteal from Spear of the Magus as well, and Freya's just natural passive could help him stay in these fights.
Fire Giant, though, started up by the Oni Warrior. Shinto standing by, does have an enhanced red buff and a Kraken available. Fire Giant, half HP, very quickly it lost a lot of that health. It will be picked back up by the Warriors after they just leashed it. Ultimate from Panatom finds Neil, and Neil finds death on the back end. The Warriors do get the Fire Giant, but at least at the cost of only their support for now. But Vote now surrounded. As soon as he lands, he will be dead as soon as everybody realizes where he had landed. Vote buys a little bit of time with this shell, but it's not going to be enough time. Shinto finds the double kill.
You got to give respect to Vote for turning and running, and for the Oni Warriors for finding beautiful pounds there by Zap, man. I can't imagine. They should be happy they were able to get the Fire Giant and save for 3. There's too much grouping happening here by the Leviathans. They should split the map and try to get as much farm as possible, because once the Oni Warriors are able to regroup, I don't even know if they will be able to push, to be honest. A 4,000 gold lead's not massive, and Fire Giant is certainly going to help, but Shinto might be in some trouble here.
Shinto does get it by the Sonic Boom. The Kraken is off the mark. It's Dardas and Cubo versus Shinto. Nika shows up, but the revive from Wrong U is perfect to get his teammate out. Zapman will jump in aggressively against Cubo, but now it's a 2v1 against Cubo Fred. He goes down to Panatom.
Beautiful revive by Wrong. You just picture perfect timing on that Scarab's Blessing, and now Leviathans are able to strip away a little bit more farm, probably pick up a Gold Fury in the process, just because no one from the Oni Warriors is really able to chase this one down. And it doesn't even look, yeah, it looks like Jingwei's flying to the right, so Nika's not even going to fly in and try and contest that one. You got Fire Giant on 2 for essentially, I mean, it's 10-0. The gold lead's not terrible. I mean, again, you're really just trying to stall this game out. I would say that Fire Giant, what it didn't do was give the Oni Warriors that much, but what it did do was take it away from the Leviathans, give them a little bit more time to try and farm up and match the itemization the Leviathans have right now. Yarkor goes up into the ult, looking for Vote here.
Does get whooped as soon as he lands, though, so Yarkor cannot continue the aggression, at least towards the Tier 2 tower, but that Tier 1 is not very healthy in the duo lane with 4 players of the Leviathans on this side of the map. That one should go down pretty easily. Just Yarkor necessary to drop that. But again, with 4 here, that's going to be a pretty hard defense for Neil Ma to try and stop this Tier 2 tower. That one should go down, especially with a Frenzy. But Wall from Neil will at least delay out and kind of negate most of the time up from that Frenzy. But that's still not going to be enough time.
They're really going to go for this. Wow, against the Fire Giant, too. Oni Warriors only have 2. It's on Dardas and Nika right now. And I was going to say, are they really about to go for a 24-minute Phoenix into Fire Giant? Not going to be the case. It looks like Nika is just pushing as far as he can in the right lane and immediately dipped out when, you know, people started showing up. Pyromancer is available. They could blow this up very quickly. Cuvo and Nika have so much crit to their name, and they could go through this. Pantom might get here in time. Nope. Very quickly, as I mentioned.
Nope.
I doubted myself. I was like, they're going to do it so fast, but maybe Panatom can make it. No, they just crit every shot.
Yeah, not a chance that Panatom steals that away. So at least a little bit of gold to go back to the Oni Warriors. But the 4,000 gold deficit that they had kind of closed up when it came to that Fire Giant has kind of ballooned itself back to the 6,500, 7K now at this point. XP matters a lot less and less now as nearly everybody's starting to hit that level 20 mark, aside from Cuvo and Vote still a little bit behind on that. But the big thing being that gold, the item disparity that's between these players. The Deathbringer gets picked up by Zapman. That puts him at 5 full items, or on the other side, at least for his opposition, Vote, still just now getting that 4th one that Typhon's Fang.
Yeah, I don't imagine that Diamond Arrow will be finished too quickly, so Vote's going to have a little bit more time before he gets that large buff to his starter item. But, you know, there are bright sides. Still 38 seconds on Fire Giant for Dardas and Nika, and they won't have to worry about the Leviathans pulling in for a little bit longer than that. So they have some time to just farm up, and Vote does tick over to level 20, so if he's able to find a little bit of farm in the next minute or so, maybe we'll be able to try and get that. But on a ward right now is Wrong U, so Vote's probably not stepping up to the wave anytime soon. Freya, not the safest character in the game, even with the ultimate and shell and beads up, you can get caught out very easily. So Vote sitting about that tier 2 line, just trying to get just one more wave if possible.
Waiting to see who walks up towards that lane. There's only 2 towers left standing on the Warrior side of the map, that being the mid and the solo T2. Cuvo Fred will push up the wave on the right side and maybe at least force one person to rotate back. It looks like it will be Yarkor going back. No, he will not. Be a cancel. No, he does end up going back, but he's got that ultimate, so he can rejoin the fight as quickly as necessary. Tier 2 and mid. So let's go down to about half HP. But the wall from Neilma, with that thing maxed out, does buy quite a lot of time for the Warriors to hold on to their towers.
Yeah, with all these auto attackers, one wall that no one really wants to expend any sort of jump to get around. They just have to wait for it to go down, and that's enough to stall and make sure that you keep that gold in hand. Again, Vote back over the left lane. I see he's got 200 more gold. Can he get the Diamond Arrow before Fire Giant gets looked at? He's trying his luck right now because Yarkor could fly over there. I imagine would have a decent time winning that 1v1 though. You get the free whoop right when he lands, and then you are Freya. You have the juking capability, so it looks like Vote will get enough gold and back immediately because Fire Giant's spawning in about 10 seconds here.
It's going to be at least a decent power spike for Vote to pick that starter item up. Diamond Arrow now ready to go for the Freya, and a grouping of the Oni Warriors towards the right side. Fire Giant spawning in just a moment, and the Leviathans are already in position to start melting this one down. Frenzy is available. It will not be popped instantly to try and go for the burn. Instead, Wrong Yu trying to bait somebody for it. Neil Ma gets caught inside the whirlpool, caught by the Kraken, and taken to the grave. Shinto finds an easy pick up against the support.
Now Kraken's not going to be available for the confirm, but Bumba's hammer is here. Shinto can reset those cooldowns.
Frenzy was popped. The Fire Giant is going down. Not fast enough. Wrong U is low in the back line, and Yarkor goes to the 1v1 against Nika, winning that trade out. Fire Giant looked back one more time by the Leviathans, and all these hunters, all these crits are going to make easy work of the objective. The Leviathans get one pick and a fire.
Man, poor Neil. I mean, he steps up, tries to be the front line of his team, and then Shinto says, I'm just going to Kraken you and get it back in the next 30 seconds. All I have to do is spam my abilities and auto-attack the wave. But this Bumba's hammer, I'll have it up if I need it. And it didn't look like they needed it even for the confirmation onto that Fire Giant because of the way Yarkor hit all those autos. Nika had to dash out and ult out. And it looks like there might be a 1v1 here in the jungle.
Yeah, I don't think you're winning that trade, Cubo. You might want to run a little bit faster. Luckily, not enough damage on that auto. Panatom will chase out Cubo Fred and make sure to keep him away. Aegis baited out. Panatom, though, just a little too far away for that slice and dice to connect. The speed buff paying dividends. Nika goes back into the fight and immediately goes back out.
Panatom is full HP against pretty much everyone. No one wants to box this Nemesis right now as the mid Phoenix is getting looked at. Beautiful wall here, but Zap is standing his ground.
Wrong U frozen though under the tower, losing a lot of HP. Does still have that res available if need be, but doesn't want to have to use that for himself for stepping a little bit too far. These walls by Neil have been so clutch for the Oni Warriors to delay the Leviathans on any objective they've pushed.
Yeah, but anytime they want Neomod dead, he's simply dead as long as Shinto has that Kraken and Mabel. They just have so much CC. One root from Wrong U, and that pretty much spells disaster. It used to be at the beginning of the game, Panatom would have to ult Neil to make sure that death goes through. Not the case anymore. Just Shogun, Susari, and Spirit Robe is not enough to live through the damage that the Leviathans have here. 11-0. And about 11,000 gold leave in favor of the Leviathans. With that being said, there are still, 4 late game hard carries and a Ymir on the side of the Oni Warriors. Pushing into that is not going to be easy. Your Phoenix Siege, your Phoenix Defense, I should say, is your best friend right now for the Oni Warriors. You're trying to get as much farm as possible. A beautiful Sonic Boom into some crits or some big Freya damage could spell disaster for the Leviathans, but the way they've been playing, they haven't dropped a beat. Wrong U has not missed an ult. Anyone that almost died has been immediately canceled away by that Scarab's Blessing.
It's been a while since we've seen a blank in the SPL. Feels like I can't even recall if we saw one at all during phase number 1. Usually teams are able to get at least one kill, but Leviathans have been playing near perfectly. Wrong U with perfect revives and maybe a perfect engage. That man eating some big damage. He's surrounded by 4. Sonic Boom goes through, misses the whoop, will catch them out, but it's going to land right into a Kraken. Cubo Fred goes down instantly to Shinto. Wrong U goes back in, and Yarkor will dash up against the other two. Dardas doing his best to find any kill, but he can't find it. Shinto finds another one. Dardas goes down, and it's only 3 left to the Warriors to defend.
Dardas wanted a kill so bad. He almost was able to outbox Zap there, but the body blocks were too good. Even with the branching bullets, you're not able to confirm that one, and Dardas will get his first death of the game. Left side Phoenix is going to be going down here unless some crate. Now there's no way.
Well, Nika does manage to slip himself away. The left Phoenix will go down. The mid could go down just as quickly, but no frenzy available to the Leviathans. The minion wave pushing in. They are posturing up to maybe go for the end of the game. Nika, Vote, and Neil got to put on one hell of a defense to stop this back. Vote up into the sky, get some good damage to the Valkyrie's discretion, but Neil Ma is already gone. Now it's 5 versus 2. Nika needs to find some big crits on this Jing Wei because Vote's not going to do anything. Nika does manage to find one, and he's going to have some backup with Cubo Fred, but now it's just going to be Cubo to defend. The Atlantis Leviathans will take game number 1, only dropping a single death the entire time.
It wasn't a shutout, though.
It wasn't a blank, that's true.
Yep, Nika found the kill. Dardas wanted it. I know that's what they were going for. They're like, this game's over. We're down 11,000 gold. This looks like the end. We got to get at least one kill. Dardas overextends for it. Wasn't able to find the autos, but Nika said, I got you, man. I'm going to make sure to win this 1v5 essentially at the Titan Room, and was able to take down Yarkor. Just such good, clean gameplay from the Leviathans. We've known that they're able to do this. This is no secret the Leviathans are good at Smite, right? They're the reigning world champions. Just a little hiccup at the beginning of the split. Given what we just saw, this meta seems to be suiting them pretty well. They've adapted quite well, and looks like they're back.
Yeah, it took them a little while to get there, but the Leviathans have at least been able to adapt in game number 1 up against the Oni Warriors. Warriors not quite able to find their footing, maybe waiting a little too long, maybe too late of a team for a team composition, at least for here in game number 1. We'll see if they can pick it back up in game number 2 right after this.
Funhouse active. Yeah, king of the palace. Rubber like Malcolm. Balled up fist in the air to the flashlight. Yeah. Hands up in the air till they gun me down. I keep it 100, they crunching the numbers, I'm getting out. Young hitter, got a fetish for success. If I ain't next, and I just leave impression. Next to rain on the window pane, puffin' plain Jane. Let them second guess me, wanna cop the Porsche with the porcelain skin. Grip the wheels, let the horses just spits. Why they trash at the chore on my list? Added it sore, but I saw with the pen. I'm eating good, Miss Caloric is lit. I sipped the potion and poured it. I on the time, watch me pour it in. Opportunity knock at the door, they like ring. They rush for the doors and it open like this. Pin stroke, game cold as the fridge. Sound wave for like more than the clicks. Cowboy bug, I surf the web for the hits. Ayy. Been gritty, don't pity, they full thing with me, been real. I'm traded, I'm hype, I'm litty, been this since scrimmage, don't play game with me. I volley these hits like I play tennis, I grip this shit, now I live it, don't pick me. I live pill at the top to the city, now I run this. How I jotted with the pistol while they flop with the vision, jaw drop when I spit it off top, lil. Need these 7 figures, catch the fade when they drip me. Bet I'll count it down to the penny wave. Heavy is all on my mind, I gotta make that edit. But I might spark that wildfire, rebel when I breach. Funhouse active, yeah, king of the palace. Rubber like Malcolm, balled up fist in the air to the flashlight. Yeah, hands up in the air till they gun me down. I keep it 100, they crunching the numbers, I'm bringing out. Funhouse active, yeah, king of the palace. Rubber like Malcolm, balled up fist in the air to the flashlight. Yeah, hands up in the air till they gun me down. I keep it 100, they crunching the numbers, I'm bringing out. I just might crash it, really I'm passive, running from the mash. I just need cash with it. I just want passion. No attraction. Every little action. Funhouse active. I just might crash it. Really I'm passive. Ready for the madness. I just need cash with it. I just want passion. No attraction. Every little action. Charge on its last light. Same clothes I'm from last night. Still lit like it's last night. Young living in the fast life. Young. Smoke cloud from the ash pipe. Catch air from the half pipe. I need a centerfold from the shows with the mansion. Chandelier dancing. Counting a Branton. Yeah. Been had hella Franks, man, it's ballpark figures. Might be in the field, but I came from the trenches. You can tell it's my time, looking better squeak. I do like the charm on my wrist, let me glitch. On me pay the way, I'm the wave, I'm authentic. Sitting courtside, got a sprain. I run the gang for the gang. Nothing but a thing when I sing. Young Usain, I sprinting. Getting fresh prints. Counting a blessing on blessing on blessing. They call me the reverend, y'all really play too much. I've been so gone off the braces, I end my hiatus by sparking that flame. Young and just stay in your lane, young entertain. I'm next to rain, what is you saying? Out of my brain, not from this planet. Hide from the cameras, high up the energy sent to me. From the enemy, that's the advantage. By doing this damage, accounted advantage. I buy you my nemesis. This is my genesis, I never had privilege. They took our innocence, it's nothing, I'm young and I'm wild going in it like Funhouse active, king of the palace. Rubber like Malcolm, balled up fist in the air to the flashlight. Yeah, hands up in the air till they gun me down. I keep it 100, they crunching the numbers, I'm bringing out. Funhouse active, yeah, king of the palace. Rubber like Malcolm, balled up fist in the air to the flashlight. Yeah, hands up in the air till they gun me down. I keep it 100, they crunching the numbers, I'm bringing out. Funhouse active. Enough of the code switching, been hitting my soul, been on the ropes, I'm ready to grow, so get to know me. Keep your head up, I want you to grow with me. See this gold on me, want you to glow with me. Yeah, alright, okay, we get it. No contest. Wait, see this gold on me, serve up, nigga. You to glow with me. The world been dying, days is number, check the climate, I'm sick of it. They had brain scheme to get the riches quick. I played a long game with serene scene and I whip this quick. From the back room to the hearts, I'm in the thick of it. I grind too hard for y'all not to see me a star, bitch. I'm raising a bar like they really pay me. They talk my life in a shambles, but I got handles. I'm finishing at the rim. I remind you time and again that I'm really him. Oh, you ain't know? This not just for the show, but that you entertain. Anybody not for me is below me. Blow me, you in the way. I live my dreams, I got it locked.
Welcome back, everybody, to Season 9 of the SPL, powered by our friends over at Alienware. Remember, last year, all of our pros and production were using Alienware gear. This year is the exact same. Alienware, again, powering our pro players, powering our production team. And you at home can grab some of the same gear that production and the pro players are playing on as well. Head on over to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code AWSMITE09 for discounts on select gear as well. Oh, I could have looked down there. We've got an awesome little graphic. So thanks again to Alienware for powering us here in Season 9 of the SPL. And they powered the Leviathans here in game number 1. Gore, the late game scaling composition of the Oni Warriors never got to scale.
Yeah, so there's the thing about like timing and farm, right? If you have a lot, it was similar. So just thinking back, I shouldn't be laughing because it was very bad, very tragic for the Warriors. Mercury and Rage stacks today just aren't going too well.
In-game
right?
Rage stacks,
yeah.
no. Out of game
Rage
right.
stacks, maybe actually out like through the roof with how many there are. It's just, I mean, look at it. It's 6-0. You've got 3,000 gold. You're 17 minutes in. The fights that the Warriors were even starting to look good in, where things were going their way, all of a sudden there's a hi-rez on the other side. It felt like there was just too much to worry about, and maybe too heavy-handed, like you said, on the late game timer, and so that by the time that you are able to get some damage out there, that your build feels good, you're down by too much gold to really feel like you have a place in the game. I mean, here it's only 4,000 gold, which I say to maybe try and control it a little bit, but like, we've seen teams fight from 4,000 behind, and it's gone okay. But this one is so controlling for the Leviathans, and there's so little that the Warriors could do. You find an individual pick, Khepri just reses them. If you can get a team fight, you don't really have like a burster on this team for everyone. You only have single target damage. So that Khepri was really just the biggest thorn in their side.
Just a brutal game for the Oni Warriors. Nika like snags one on hardcore later in that game. We made a joke about the rare 0-4 Neil game on Ymir. He goes 0-5. It's just the way it works. This is just tough. Now the Oni Warriors, this is going to sound mean, and then it's going to be nice at the end.
Okay.
The Oni Warriors are a team that loses this way. This is not an unheard of type of loss for the Oni Warriors. They are also the type of team, though, that can bounce back from a loss like this. You know, it not being an unheard of loss means that they're used to turning around their mental after a game like that. And if I've learned anything about the Oni Warriors, it's back to the drawing board. We are reestablishing a style going into game 2. And if that also doesn't work, then so be it. It's just not our day. I don't think the Oni Warriors run back the exact same comp that they just had. It just didn't work.
I think that if they do something similar, like it wouldn't be the exact same. I think that the way to work into it is try to have something that's a little more splash damage. I mean, go back, go look at where the Dragons were earlier. When you have a lot of those, well, I guess Nemesis is still single target, but you had 3 hunters, some of which that were going for abilities, some that were going for crits, some that was going auto attack. You had the Nemesis in there as well, and that was a lot, but they banned the Khepri because they know we are going to find individual kills.
Yep.
So if you want a comp like that, if you want to play the same style or same thing, the Warriors, that's what you got to do, is ban that Khepri. So I like that that's how they start things off. To me, that means they maybe don't want to change exactly their draft. That means they want to go back to it and try to play something similar. The only other way I could see it working, and granted, we already saw a lot of mage jungles not find success, but like that's the other option, right? If you want a Xbalanque over there in, mid, you want the Freya over in long lane, and you want a Jingwei over in solo, that's fine, but then that Mercury can't be a Mercury. You have to trade it in for the ESET, for a Poseidon, for something that we've been seeing in the jungle, to have just some of that bigger AoE damage that a mage can bring, because otherwise you're severely lacking.
Yeah, I think it's a valid point. I do agree with the sentiment around the Khepri ban here. I think it just caused a little bit too much chaos. Because, I don't know if game 1 completely changes, but it would have looked a lot different. There were so many kills that narrowly escaped from the Leviathans. Again, I don't know if that's enough to completely flip game 1 around. But you're not looking at 4 out of 5 players having 0 kills in game 1. If a couple more of those drop, maybe you get some momentum going. Khepri definitely had its place. And the Oni Warriors, I think, smart for taking that one away.
I think it's a balancing point. Khepri was a huge issue for a comp like that to be successful. It's not the only thing that went wrong.
No.
There was a lot of other things that the Leviathans just did well. I mean, the farm game early on, it felt very much like what you expect from a Leviathans game, right? When they come in, they're just going to fight a little bit better. They're somehow going to out-farm you, even though it sometimes doesn't even make sense. You could watch the exact same footage of them every time, and you'll be like, where are they getting? Like, how did you get that gold? I watched you do it, yet I still don't fully understand things like that. So I think that that's going to be another thing for the Warriors to contend with, is that with the Leviathans, especially I would argue with a chip on their shoulder, with Phase 1 not going the way they would have liked, with Masters definitely not going the way they would have liked, as a reigning world champ, but specifically as that group of 5 people in that booth, I guess 6, let's throw the coach in there. They don't like that. They hate losing. Like, they've always hated losing. That's why they grind all the time. That's why we always, like, meme them sometimes. But, like, they'll stay up till 4 a.m. one night just playing Smite because they like the game. And that grinding and that kind of level of mentality felt like it was disappearing from Phase 1. But with the way things went, I have to imagine it's back.
And that's the expectation, right? There was the expectation in Phase 1. I think Neil actually pretty accurately sums up how Phase 1 went for the Leviathans. He didn't word it this way, but I'll kind of paraphrase. Like a Worlds hangover almost. Like you come off a Worlds win, it's kind of expected that you maybe slump a bit at the beginning of the next year. So it is. And I don't want to glean too much from a single game where they roll over the Oni Warriors at the beginning of Phase 2. It is a long phase. Remember, we did one single round robin for Phase 1. We've got 2 months worth of Phase 2 SPL now, where all these teams are going to play each other a couple of times before we move into the next event here later this year. And so the Leviathans have a long road to go. So do the Oni Warriors, starting with game number 2 here. We'll catch back up with picks and bans. Chernobog, first pick worthy nowadays, answered by a Jingwei and a Mercury. So some of the key components, though, on a losing side of the Oni Warriors draft in game 1, now Gore find their way in the back pockets of the Leviathans.
And I like where the Leviathans have gone with this. Jingwei, CC immune ult, Mercury is able to dive out and dodge a little bit, but you got the Geb shield as well up against this Daji, so you feel pretty good there. The Morrigan's on the other side, though, so that's twice the Morrigan ults, twice the Palaus. Or sorry, twice the Daji ults, twice the Palaus.
Imagine
so you can
2
pull
Morrigan ults.
a couple in there. Yeah, if you Morrigan ult into Morrigan, so then you can Morrigan ult into someone else.
I guess that would work in casuals, right? If there's a Morrigan on the other team, you Morrigan ult into Morrigan. I wonder how that works if the Morrigan on the other team has ulted into a character.
And you ult into the Morrigan, because then she doesn't have her items,
right?
Because they sell. I don't think they allow that. Yeah, I genuinely don't think it's on the
It's probably
wheel.
just not allowed.
Yeah. Well, like you know how when you load in, you've got, or like when you choose your ult, like you got the little
yeah, right.
wheel
It's just not an
there.
option.
I just think
that's
legitimately
honestly, it's probably
just
smart.
not there. Yeah,
it's probably smart. I don't know why I'd want to be the other Morrigan anyway.
You can tell how long it's been since I've gotten to play mid in any game.
Yeah, and much less play Morrigan when you end up picking.
I'm not a great Morrigan player.
No, I'm bad. I'm bad at Morrigan. Jabalanke, another pick here for the Oni Warriors. This time, you would assume won't be mid. So with Chernobog, that's likely a solo lane churn. Of course, Morgan then mid, X-Ball plus Fafnir. Over in the dual lane, Daji then out of the jungle. So it feels a little bit more standard from the meta we've seen here lately.
A lot more normal. Yeah. And realistically, it's going to do similar things. I mean, like, if you look at the way Morgan can play, outside of the ult, you typically see a lot more of a, I want to call it like assassin style. Like, the movement that she's going for is like, can I find a beeline to get somebody in the pincer? If I get that damage, it's a lot easier for her to either burst them down, or it sets up the burst, or she's the one finalizing it. We've seen a lot of stealth plays that go really deep into the back line. That plus a Daji, it means that they have a lot of initiation in my mind, or Daji maybe to initiate, Morgan can ult and initiate, and then she can find any follow-ups while Chernobog and Shibalanke hit from the backline. So as a whole to me, it feels just better as a comp working in a 5-on-5.
Yeah, but how does this Geb hurt in your mind? Obviously, Daji, very important in initiating, pulling some targets out.
I can already tell you, yes.
You only get one stone shield, right? You only get the one single stone shield, but if only a couple of the Daji chains hitting, things like that, Geb does throw a wrench in the mix.
And that's where, like Jingwei, if she gets grabbed, like Jingwei, Mercury, Geb get grabbed. Geb throws like the shield. Well, actually, the shield applies afterward for Palau, right? You can't like CC immune and rip it off.
Right.
You have to get them out of the stun,
right?
If I remember correctly. So like there's a world where you can keep them safe. I'm getting eyes over there. I can't, like, both J-Mac and Trelly were like,
Challenge me.
I couldn't tell if that was confirmation, denial, or confusion.
Well, because the beads cleanse the chain, right? Well, luckily,
well, that's what I'm saying. Beads cleanse the chain. I
Right.
don't know that Geb Shield does. It does.
does.
That's what I'm getting to.
Right.
Okay.
Well, luckily,
I thought you had to wait for the stun, if I'm being real with you. Maybe that's why my teammates hate when I play Geb against the Daji. Hold on here. Wait
You
a
let
minute.
him get pulled
I'm getting some self-introspection on this one.
You're letting him get pulled every single time.
No, you always throw the shield out first because I'm like, hey, I'm gonna let you when you get
Right.
hit real hard. This way, there's just a shield.
Right.
build.
Well, Gore, the Leviathans finalize their draft here with a pick we haven't seen lately out of the solo lane. It was standard for a while.
Yeah.
Amaterasu, a
Man,
good look for your
if it's Amaterasu's on the other side, it's curtains for the Leviathans. Nika's Amaterasu, for some reason, just wins games. That being said, Hardcore's really good at the game.
Yep.
So I expect a lot out of this one. Like you said, though, it's interesting to see it. We watched it, roll back season 7. Scary D playing with PK, the Amaterasu play there would like win games, and the way that she can dive, the way that her ult can really set up fights and things like that is absolutely enough to lift your team and like literally kicking and screaming drag them to victory whether they want it or not. Like you can do almost everything. But that being said, that was a wildly different meta, right? Up to now, you still have some of the same setup, you still have a little bit of healing, the move speed, all that fun stuff that comes in the Amaterasu kit, but you have the problems that exist for Warriors in 9-5.
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to do enough damage to feel like you're getting something done? Are you going to be tanky enough to feel like you can actually go to the front line? I think that's going to be some of the problems that Hardcore has to contend with here, because he's going to have a lot of potential to get blown up by a Chernobog, a Morrigan, and Xbalanque on the other side.
Gore, it feels like we have just a bit glossed over this Ola run. Largely my fault because we've sunk our teeth into.
I can do it real fast.
Okay.
Cool. Did he ult? Awesome. There you go. Does he not have ult? Ignore him.
Really?
Yeah.
To be fair, his ult is
his ult's real
wildly
good. The rest of his
impactful,
kit,
right?
he literally exists to press for.
Gonna need some scaling though, and look, the Leviathans do some scaling here. Jingwei, Mercury, Oleron, so shades of the only warrior style of scaling. Do you need to see Cuvo Fred get more active early in this game on the Daji?
Like, maybe not even like early, just active. Can he get a kill? That's a good first step. No, I think like the Daji, look, you're going up against a Mercury. I think you're already in a good position. I think that this is a good spot for Cuvo to get things rolling.
The metric for 4 out of 5 of the Oni Warriors is, can you get a kill? Going into game number 2, time for the Warriors to bounce back.
I was supposed to come back off of that, just get a kill, and you're already doing better than you were last game. I mean,
Gore needs a raise. That's all I know.
Seriously, that was top tier. And is Shinto's ultimate up? Yes, this is a good god. If not, probably just whatever. But jumping in here, Oni Warriors took pretty much the entirety of game number 1 to be able to find a kill. So if they can find anything and get active in the early game, as the desk is highlighting, could be a big boon for this team. And they really need a big bounce back in game number 2 if they want hopes of taking the Leviathans to game 3. It's J-Mac, Turley, and Doug hopping back in once again. We see the Chernobog in the solo, but this time instead of your core piling it, it's going to be Nika taking it this time around.
Yeah, more often than not, when I see the Morgan locked in, I get a little bit nervous. When it is Dardez, that eases my stomach a little bit, right? When it's Dardez piloting this pick, I trust him. He's got a pretty good brain as to who to turn into, right? Usually you'd think it'd be the double Pala, but could also turn into this Chernobog and use that global presence to try and help out the team, that sort of thing. I expect some big plays from Dardez, but also, as you and the desk highlighted, Cuvo got to be on point with these Palas. Looking at Shinto, you only have one form of CC immunity unless wrong views around. Probably trying to find those pulls onto this Oleron whenever you can is going to be a pretty good way to find some aggression in this mid lane. But 4 beads rather, and a teleport from Yarkor as Cuvo gets dashed on here.
Level 2 by Panatom at least gets some pressure onto Cuvo Fred, but Dardez will find some right back up against Shinto. Meanwhile, the level 2s of the dual lane start going strong. It's done by Neil. Good poison darts up against Zapman. And Vote's going to put the pressure up against the Levi. So the Oni Warriors have some bite in game number 2.
Yeah, we love to see that. Rongyu is on Geb, which I don't think is ever going to really win this lane too hard. Neil, though, can be very aggressive on this Fafnir. Just completely jump in, try to find the hammer on the Zap, but Rongyu is body blocking it. So we'll just take the hammer onto the rock and, get a little bit of damage there. But I don't expect to see them get too aggressive in this lane. Maybe once that purple buff spawns in, Neil will just run at it and be annoying while, you see Vote go back and clear his own purple buff and just see if Neil can try and go for a steal. That sort of thing is what I foresee in this lane as Phantom misses that dash, and now Cuvo could look to get aggressive here, but more so focusing on just clearing that wave. I don't think this 2v2 early on is really where you're finding any kills.
Well, it's a hammer for a shield. Rongyu's rollout will be blocked by Neil just to delay a little while longer so that way Vote can start soling away some of these Harpy camps over by this Arthurian castle on this left side of the map. This 2v2 in mid, we see Cuvo constantly using that 1,000 cuts in order to kind of group up the wave. That way Dardas has an easy time clearing it out. But at least for now, no blood to be shed on either of the lanes, despite the fact that Zapman has constantly been slammed by these hammers. Neil's got beef with Zapman right now.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Given how the last game went, not Zap specifically, but the team as a whole did not really care for Neil. It looks like the Leviathans were that was always going to be the first pick, right? When the Shamir walked up, he got exploded. This time around on Fafnir, much more mobile, has more aggression built into the kit, so can get aggressive and just keep throwing hammers. That's that, man. It looks like Neil's going to continuously just hit all of those. I haven't seen him miss one just yet. The shields, though, from Rongyu have always been there as well. And it looks like unless Neil's able to get over to that purple buff and be an annoyance, it will just be a purple buff trade. No sort of invade coming out from either of the duo laners right now. Just sorry for saying, hey, we're not ready for this. You know, you saved your hog smart, as a smart support would, right? You don't hog that first buff. It has a little bit of HP. But just in case that invade comes in, you save that hog for the next one.
Now, we have been seeing a lot more of that as a recent, especially because that first rotation of the camp is not very tanky. You can take that one out pretty easily for yourself. It is a shell over by Neilma in the dual lane versus just beads across the board, aside from Yarkor, who's elected to pick up teleport on the side of the Leviathan. So a little bit of team fight early on in this game for some defenses via way of Neilma, and immediately looks like he's starting to build himself potentially over into that sovereignty.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of these Sov rushes, sometimes the Emperor's Armor, even if that's something that you really want to go for. But into a comp like this the Leviathans have, you got 3 physicals, and a lot of them are going to be able to go. Nika, though, could be in some trouble.
Nika does not get into the sky in time. It's Panatom and Yarkor teaming up to take down the solo laner of the Oni Warriors. That'll put first blood on the board for the Levi's.
I gotta be honest, I'm trying to figure out how that happened, because Nika has beads and had the ult. And probably, I'm assuming, maybe the dash got forced. Either way, though, did get chain stunned out and was not able to get up into the sky. So that will be first blood going the way of Panatom. And that's exactly who you want it to go onto, trying to get that rage online as early as possible. I talk about this a lot when we see these Mercuries. The more you get those crits, the more crits you're able to get, the more stacks on your rage. It all goes hand in hand, and finishing it as soon as possible is going to be the best way. And I'll hold that thought, though.
Kivo Fred up on the Pal finds Shinto. Shinto does have the beads, but doesn't like to use it. Instead, just uses his ultimate, and that's enough to turn the fight around as he picks up a kill onto Dardas, who couldn't transform in time. Patient relic use by Shinto. Nets a kill for the Leviathans.
Yeah, I think Cuvo wanted to get as much damage with that ult as possible, but you got to use that as quickly as you can, or else you're eating a lot of damage. Yarkor trying to find a way to dash out here and not get it blocked, and will find it, but Nika wants to chase this.
He's going to be slowed down by the ultimate from Nika just a little bit. Cuvo blinks in, needs to find one more hit, and, well, why don't we just throw Dardas in the mix of all of it? Nika comes up with a kill early on to put the first one up in game number 2 for the Warriors, but with a rotation from Panatom, that will turn around and get another one for the Leviathans.
But it looks like Neilma's also here as well. So four-man rotation over to the solo lane. Does net a kill, but it's a trade because, once again, Panatom goes over, gets the last hit, so even more gold going the way of your jungler, and Shinto got the credit for that last kill we didn't even get to touch on because so much action has been happening. I think Dardas, the only reason he was taking the full brunt of those auto attacks is, like, certainly Cuvo's about to pull him in, and then we can, you know, I'll use my ult and do all that things, but Cuvo wanted the full damage of the Palau. A little bit of miscommunication there. Dardas could have beads and ulted and, you know, immune that slow, but just wasn't able to, and ate way too much damage. And obviously Shinto is reaping the benefits now. Looking pretty good in that lane. Level 7, 1-0, and already finished that Ring of Hecate.
Well, the good news, at least for the Warriors, is it didn't take them, what, like 24, 25 minutes to finally find a kill. They found it within 5, which is a better start than they had last time around, which is at least a good sign, is that they're trying to fight, they're trying to get active early. While it is over into the solo lane, going off an overzealous Yarkor more than anything else, finding anything in this early game is so important and so critical for the Warriors.
Now, you're not wrong. This is infinitely better getting this kill at 5 minutes instead of 25 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever it was. But I don't think that's their bar. I don't think the Oni Warriors are like, let's just get one kill. They're trying
of course not.
to fight back into this game. They want to make sure. I mean, they want to send us to 3 sets, obviously. That's their main goal at the moment, is try to get over this hurdle. We're seeing some Transcendence being stacked for the Oni Warriors, and Cuvo Fred and Nika not quite being able to finish that up his vote. Hasn't had too much success in this lane. Since Zapman did opt to go for that Itch of All, should be winning these auto attack trades at least for a little while. You're going to be, anytime those auto attacks come through, Vote's not going to want to trade into that, but Yarkor could be in some trouble here.
Kivo Fred teleports in, Yarkor rooted out, surrounded by 3, probably won't have a path out of here. Question is, will he go down to the tower, at least maybe try and get some of the wave before he fights his self down? But it will be Nika getting the kill. So now they've doubled their kill count from last game on. Oni Warriors now with 2 on the board.
But he only got the back archers. The 3 melees did survive, so that's not, he wasn't able to get the full wave there. He tried his best, and I think that's the mark of a good solo laner, right? Maybe he just tries to run away stalls, but got as much farm as possible, make sure he doesn't lose the full wave. Yarkor there probably happier than he would be if he didn't, but Phantom got the stealth out of Dardes very early.
Dardes going to use his beads to turn around, good damage back, but Dardes will transform into the dodge. He thought maybe that there would be at least a Sonic Boom out. Pala does pick up 2. Dardes goes up to try and pull them back in, and it will only be Rongyu this time who gets grabbed, but Rongyu does find a double Cataclysm on the escape path out. Shinto under fire by Kubo. Fred Sonic Boom might just be enough to save both Shinto and Rongyu as the Dark Omen misses. The root is good, but Nika doesn't have the damage. The Shockwave stops him from going any further in, and now the Yarkor is rotated over. Nika will go down. Neilma finds 1 on the stun, but that 1 is not enough because Shinto picks up another.
Yeah, Neilma jumps in there with the disarm, trying to save his solo laner, and unfortunately Nika falls in immediately after. The attention gets turned to the Fafnir. Now the Leviathans have a free opportunity to go for this Gold Fury here, and no one is going to be walking up a step up to this, so that is going to be even more gold going in the pockets of the Leviathans right now, looking at about 2,000, and it's pretty early on, J-Mac. 8 minutes in, 5-2 with a Gold Fury under your belt. You got to be looking pretty happy, especially looking at the characters you have on your team. You've got Oleron, Mercury, Jingwei. All of these characters don't mind being passive until late game. Going into it with a lead, that's even better.
And the Leviathans are really playing as aggressively as they can. An 8-minute Gold Fury, if we're going back, a month or so ago, not entirely unheard of, but in this 9.5 bonus meta that we've been seeing, Gold Fury typically isn't looked at till that 14, 15-minute mark most of the time, but Leviathans just have control of this game, and they're able to get Yarkor over there, grab that one up, and add more gold to their pockets. 3,000 gold in the lead just 9 minutes in.
Yeah, and Zapman just, playing archery over there. He's got 2 bows already. He's got the Itch of All probably going into Atlantis, I imagine. Silver Branch also could be in the mix, so just trying to get as many bows as possible on this Jingwei right now. Vastly on an island are both of these ADCs, not really needing to rotate in. No assists, no kills to their name. They've just been auto-attacking each other, and that's pretty much been the brunt of their rotations thus far. But I think the Oni Warriors still have a few different avenues to try and get aggressive here. They did get Shinto's beads down for about 52 more seconds, so maybe, hold that thought.
Dardes in danger, a shockwave from Rongyu and some basics from Panatom, but the Major Look misses because of the ultimate coming out from Vote, blurring the vision. Meanwhile, to the left-hand side goes Nika trying to find Zapman in the 2v1, but Zapman gets away from the CC, and with Rongyu standing by, there will be no kills for the Warriors up against the Hunter.
Yeah, Vote turning the lights off. Very clutch there. Dardes loses the tower. Maybe not, actually. Neil's making that rotation in. The minions are here.
Neil does walk into the damage from the orbs and will have to leap his way out. 4 of the Leviathans grouped in mid to maybe push this tier 1 tower down. Shinto will step in and will be able to drop that one down. A very early mid tier 1 is not boding well for the Warriors.
And now the Pyromancer has to be on the table as we see a 1v1 opportunity for Vote in this left lane. No one's even close. This is a fight you have to take. There's going to be no rotations, but Vote not trying to get too aggressive here.
No, Vote will not dash in aggressively at Zapman, will not use anything more than a couple of autos and some poison darts to at least push Zapman back to the tier 1 tower. Zapman, though, with that passive, will be able to get himself back to the lane pretty quickly. Won't miss out on too much golden XP from these waves. The Oni Warriors still fighting down because that Pyromancer does fall over on the opposite side of the map.
Yeah, it's about 4,000, close to 5,000 now. A lot of gold going the way of the Levi's. They've just been farming the map better, fighting better, and laying out these objectives much better. And, props to Dardes for living there, obviously. No beats into a Sonic Boom. 9 out of 10 times, probably going to fall, but you lose your tower, you lose both objectives on the map. Sometimes, you might just take that kill on the Morgan over those things because, too many people tried to save the Morgan. Dardes gets out, but you lose a lot more in the process. And Nika's been getting very active on this map. As a solo laner with a global ult, you'd think would be a little bit behind right now, sitting about even, XP-wise with Yarkor, but still a level 11 at the map right now. You'd think he'd want to sit in lane just a little bit longer, try to get those items online, but it seems like the Warriors really need this presence with these fights, or it'd be going even worse.
Nika at least able to find a couple of kills so far this game to try and keep the Oni Warriors alive, but haven't been able to find much success anywhere else on the map. Everybody is starting to fall behind. 2 levels in mid, 2 levels in support separate the Oni Warriors from the Leviathans. Rongyu has been ever present on this Geb, and Shinto has been very patient with his relic usage. We saw it in the very first fight that happened for First Blood by the mid camps, and we even saw it in the mid skirmish that happened earlier, making sure to use his ultimate for the first Pal-Lao and then waiting out to the second Pal-Lao before using his beads.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty strong move, right? Where you sit there and you're like, I know there's going to be 2 Pal-Laos. You're probably not going to aggress off the first one because the follow-up is sitting in a second Pal-Lao. So I'm just going to ult this, stand around, and then maybe I'll beads the second one. Maybe I'll get Geb shielded either way. Not going to fret whenever this aggression comes. Cubo Fred gets caught in the jungle, though.
Goes up to the Pal-Lao, does find a chain onto 2 players, 3 technically, but 1 cleansed out. And that'll be a disengage for the jungler of the Warriors. Lost half his health in the blink of an eye up against this Leviathan squad.
Yeah, well, caught in his own jungle, just trying to get some farm, as we see Neil maybe trying to help out his own. Maybe see Vote wanted to get aggressive on the Zap here, as the Primal Fury should be spawning in about 25 seconds. But look at the map presence of the Leviathans right now. They are so aware of what's about to spawn in. They are so aware of where everyone is on the Warriors at any given moment. They want this objective. They want it as free as possible, and they even want to pick beforehand if they can find it. So they're making sure to spread out as much as they can around this Primal Fury, get their vision down, and then look to set up any sort of gank they can before it gets pulled.
We do say 5 sets of purification beads, even Rongyu going as far as making sure that he had his earlier on in the game. So these Pal-Lao is going to be a little bit less valuable when everybody has a way to get away from it at least one time through. Hammer does hit Neil, or does hit Rongyu. Rongyu finds 2 with the Cataclysm. Poison darts are good out of Vote, and Dardes in the backline trying to slow things down. Nika has joined the fray. Zapman is falling low and has to use the airstrike to get out, but now Rongyu has been left out. Pentaton finds a Sonic Boom onto just 1 to slow this fight down. Dardes up on the Pal-Lao trying to find anybody able to pull. Yarkor and Shinto will get yanked back in, but Yarkor dashes it aggressively back against Dardes, who now will not have a way out. He gets stunned out and taken down, but in that while, at least the Warriors were able to pick up one of their own.
Got Panatom, but now it looks like Rongyu still is trying to chase this. Shinto's doing a fair bit of damage, but the ultimates are down. You still have Vote's ult. You could still turn off the lights during this Gold Fury, and I think that's what he's trying to save this for.
Gold Fury, or I should say Primal Fury, started up, but immediately leashed away by the Leviathans, not willing to pull that objective with still 3 other players of the Warriors alive, especially maybe lack of burst. That man goes over the poison darts, and it's a 2v1 that Vote's gonna have to get some assistance with. Neilma does show up, and now Rongyu is the one in danger. Nika wrapping around behind, misses the root on Zapman.
No
but
ult.
Rongyu is out, Zapman no ult, Zapman 4 seconds left till his dash is up. But the Oni Warriors give up chase.
Wow, I'm surprised Zap gets out there. Rongyu playing this so well. I mean, I wanted to highlight, looking at Rongyu and Shinto, they both upgraded those beads early, but they didn't even have to use them. They both were able to immune the Pal-Laos as quickly as they could, and now they're able to pull the Primal Fury here. It's all up to Zap to try and steal this one away, but he doesn't want to show face. Rongyu's rolling out, but they're pulling the Fire Giant?
Fire Giant, what a call by the Leviathan. Sure, the Primal Fury goes down, and that's a great prize and all, but the Leviathans have snuck the other objective. 15-minute Fire Giant to the Chaos side team. The Leviathans continue to really play with this lead.
I mean, yeah, I think that's exactly what they're doing. About 6,000, you just lost a Primal Fury, but you're sitting on a Fire Giant now, one of the earliest we've seen in quite some time, given that Masters tournament. But now it's all up to the Leviathans. What do they want to do with this? Usually, you see that setup Fire Giant about 20 minutes, get you some towers. Maybe you dip your toes into the Phoenix. But this is a 15-minute Fire Giant, so I imagine there's a lot of towers you want to go for first. You have plenty of options right now. Still 2 tier 1s available at the moment you could try to go for. So Leviathans have plenty of time to try and pick apart this map and see where they can get the most out of this first Fire Giant. I don't imagine, though, Phoenix is on the menu. Just so hard to try and kill those, and I don't think anyone really has the itemization to try and do that, unless, of course, Leviathans find a wipe.
Especially with how healthy the Phoenixes are nowadays with their recent buffs that came through. I'm looking at a 2.5 to 3 level disparity between the mid laners right now. Dardes has not been able to get the same level of farm, an entire item behind Shinto on this Oleron, who has had great usages of the ultimate to bait out these Pal-Laos early in the midst of the fight. Hasn't even had to use one for an actual team fight, to use it for his team to kind of collapse himself in, it's almost always just been in response to Pao Lao.
Yeah, I mean, he's able to just drop it. If you can make use out of these sanctified fields, and Shinto is going to be having a good game. I think Gore said at the beginning, you know, if he's got his ult, good. If not, ignore him. Well, he usually has his ult whenever they want to fight, and that's why he's sitting 2-0-3, level 16, tied for the most farm in the game with two other members of his team all sitting at level 16 right now. So yeah, I'd say Shinto's pretty happy. His Leviathans are trying to go for this left side tier 1.
Shinto still sitting off to the backside. Nika will dive in up against Shinto. Zapman used the airstrike to get out, and Rongyu's got the rollout. Stone Shield comes through, and there is a defensive sanctified field. Shinto does have the beads and will pop them to make sure to get away from this Pao Lao. Zapman sitting at a quarter HP. A dive in by Dardes should finally net them a kill onto the carry, and they will. Vote credited to 1, and it's chaos under the tier 1 tower. Shinto goes down. Panatom finds Cubo on the reinitiation in, but now the members of the Leviathans are getting low. Rongu is at half HP, has to walk back, and in the 3v4, the Warriors are the ones who come out on top.
Yeah, they get Fire Giant off 2 members and only lose Cuvo there, and it looks like they are trying to retreat as best as possible. Stalling out this Fire Giant has to be your first option here, but trying to get some gold in the process when 2 are dead also would be pretty solid. The Levi's are going to lose that fight, but they didn't lose too much gold-wise. They're still very much about as head as they were when they started this siege, and you still have fire on Panatom and Yarkor. Obviously, it's on Rongu as well, but you want it on your damage dealers trying to get these objectives, trying to knock down these towers. It at least stalls the push. About a minute and 8 seconds left on this Fire Giant, but the Levi's have some time to recollect.
We do get to get at least a little bit of a perspective from the fight down at actual eye level. It may have been hard to keep up with everything that was going up at the top end with the amount of Pao Laos, the ultimates that were flaring through, Sonic Boom from Panatom through the backline. This fight, Vote just got to go untouched the entire time. His health bar has not dropped below what it was just at that final moment there.
Yeah, he was doing so much damage there on that Shivalanke. I mean, he's going the solid build for it as well. When you're using your 1, using those bolas, you're losing so much mana. With Transcendence online and Cal, you've got some MP5. You're able to just auto-attack efficiently, spam out those poison darts as much as you want. And then if you're ever in any danger, use that Rising Jaguar to move around and just position yourself well. So sitting 1-0 right now, the only member of the Oni Warriors who is not yet fallen. And his positioning in that fight is pretty much why these things are happening.
Vote able to keep himself safe during the entirety of that last team fight, his health rarely dropping under 90% at any given time. And maybe also thanks to help some of the shells that were popping through, 3 of them on the side of the Oni Warriors. Meanwhile, no shells this time by the Leviathans. Instead, it is those 5 beads I mentioned earlier, a few Aegises, and a sprint picked up by Rongu.
No shells?
No shells.
Yeah, that was just, you know,
Yeah.
no shells.
Yeah.
That was me at the reaction.
Yeah,
You're up against 2
Mega Mind over
ADCs.
here.
Yeah, if Dardes was to turn into a 3rd ADC up against 3, but no need at this point because you have a massive lead. Climbing even more so after that last fight. Fire Giant has fallen off, should be spawning in about 35 seconds. I expect to see this Oni Fury at least looked at by the Levi's, though. They did, remember, they snuck the Fire Giant last time while the Primal Fury was going down. Oni Fury, though, is going to be a little bit more useful. Cubo could be in some trouble here, though.
Cubo takes 1 crit, 2, 3, and doesn't even have time to get to the Pao Lao. Panatom swinging for the fences and gets the home run up against Cubo. Friend, that'll be the 3rd death on the jungler for the Oni Warriors and the 5th kill for the jungler of the Levi's.
You just come up with that?
No.
Oh, I liked it.
No.
Well, it was good. Swinging for the fences,
Thank you.
gets the home run. He's 5-1 right now. This Mercury, I mean, he rotated into that fight a little bit late, and I think that's why it didn't go as well as it could have. But either way, right now, whenever Panatom, hits anyone, it's doing a ton of damage right now, and should be looking to go for this Fire Giant on the right side. The Oni Fury goes their way. The Oni Warriors are going to have to defend these Oni minions, and they're going to be very difficult to stop, and someone has to put some pressure onto those. Well, the Levi's are up a man right now, 5v4 until Cubo gets to make it all the way back up. But looking at where Zapman is, just doing speed buff, they're not trying to pull this right away. They're not trying to burn this down before everyone gets to regroup from the Warriors.
Rongu was just literally staring the Fire Giant in the eyes, well, as close to the eyes as he could actually look up as the small rock man compared to it. But Leviathans will pull the Fire Giant finally. Panatom finds Neil Moth, throws him back to the team. Panatom eats a bit of damage from Vote, level 17 on the Shibalanke, with a bit of crit to his name and quite a bit of damage. Got to keep your eyes on both Nika and Vote as these team fights go through.
Yeah, but a little bit of a reset here, not wanting to pull that just yet. Waiting for this Trebuchet and waiting for these Oni minions is probably going to be your best option. As trying to just set up an ambush here is Dardes, and nope, they're going to back off as Fire Giant gets pulled.
This is a dangerous wave stacking up on the left between Oni minions and a Trebuchet. The Warriors probably want to send somebody over there to stop this one. Otherwise, that tier 2 tower might as well be as good as gone. Neil Ma will get spotted out and knock up in a silence from the frontliners of the Levi's, but Neil does have the hammer to slow them down. Poison darts out of Vote will find some damage. But for now, the Leviathans are just holding the Warriors here as long as possible. Finally, Nika will go back to base to try and answer to all the carnage that's about to hit that left tier 2 tower.
Yeah, remember, Nika did ult into this fight and join the fray, so the cooldown will be down for a little bit longer, but this fight's been going for so long, he almost has that ultimate backed up. So now the Leviathans, instead of pulling that Fire Giant like we thought, just going for the tier 2 and right, trying to net even more gold to themselves.
Definitely could have gone a lot worse on the left side, but Nika, with ultimate now back online, can join the fight any moment that his team needs him. Meanwhile, tier 2 right side goes down to the Hunter, Zapman, and Panatom. And Shinto, all the while, will just go ahead and solo the Pyromancer until he gets some backup as Panatom and the rest of the Leviathans rejoin him. And adds a lot more gold to the pockets of the Leviathans. We're sitting at a 10k gold lead by the Chaos team.
Yeah, but on the left side of the map, Nika still has not back, so hit level 20 and will continue to farm up as much as he can until that Fire Giant is pulled. Got my eyes on Panatom, though, seeing if maybe was trying to go over to that left side of the map, find a Sonic Boom, and take that 1v1, but just wanted to drop that red buff, probably get a Seer or a Protector of the jungle, and then get ready for this Fire Giant fight. Because you're going to be fighting in the jungle, Protector of the jungle is going to be a solid bet here. Looking at the jungle matchup, though, 4 levels ahead. Cuvo cannot get online at the moment, 0-3, as it once again will be pulled.
Started up, Neil Ma here, the only one here right now. Cuvo, Vote, and Nika all right behind, but Fire Giant is down to a quarter HP. Neil Ma jumps in, missed the hammer, and the Fire Giant has been leased. Cuvo, Fred, up on the Pow Lao. How many people will be able to pull in? The answer to that is only Wrong You. But Yarkor doesn't find anybody with the dazzling offensive. That ultimate goes widely missed.
And it looks like forcing Nika's dash early is going to be the case. Fire Giant's about half, but still no real burst on the map for the Leviathans. They do just want to back off here and not risk 50-50 in this objective without a pick at least. I mean, getting Cuvo's ult was solid. They didn't pull too many, and you know, they didn't even have to beads because they just dropped the Sanctified Field, and it looks like Panatom still trying to grab something here. Yarkor wraps around though.
Yarkor does find Nika, and that Frostbound Hammer is going to be a pain. Nika does go up in the sky, but he has to land in one of these spots. Luckily for him, nobody was ready for him to land back in the midst of everyone, so the Leviathans will at least bait the ultimate, the global, out of Nika, and once again start the Fire Giant. Neil Ma walking up, Dardes and Boat right behind. The darts are good, but this time Dardes goes in to the Yola run himself. The Sanctified Field for the Oni Warriors is paying dividends, but now Dardes is the one in danger. The Fire Giant has done too much damage to him. The Oni Warriors get the Fire Giant, but how many of them are going to be able to find their way out? Neil Ma is already gone. Zapman airstrikes into the backline. Boat goes down. But still, so many members of the Leviathans low on HP.
Only Fire Giant left on 3 as Nika's trying to get away here, doing a ton of damage in the back pedal. Panatom is also trying to wrap around to find any bit of crits. This is the, I mean, they're going to get a little bit off this Fire Giant, obviously. They have it on 3, but I don't think the Leviathans are too worried to fight into this right now. They're so far ahead. It stalls out the game a little bit longer, but I still think the Levi's are able to just say, hey, we're going to fight into you. We're not going to give up these tier 2 towers. Definitely maybe give up the tier 1 or 2, but the tier 2 towers, they're not going to let that gold get back into their hand. The Levi's have to form a defense here. Cubo Fred, though, while that was going on, was able to get 2 levels, getting closer up to that level 20 point. Obviously, Dardes is also level 18, just ticks over to 19. Neoma is essentially just an Aura bot and just buffs at the moment, so looking at him, seeing that he's only level 14 isn't going to hurt too much. You have that Sovereignty, that Shoguns, and the Coerce. That's what you really want from your Fafnir. I'm just trying to dissect what the Oni Warriors really have going for them, and right now, it's not a Primal Fury.
No, it's not. That one belongs to the Atlantis Leviathans. They will grab that one swiftly. With only 3 players left with that Fire Giant buff, one of them being a carry in Nika on that Chernobog, so still have some push potential. The problem that I see, Trelly, is that the Oni Warriors only have 2 towers left standing on their side of the map, one of them at half HP. Meanwhile, the Leviathans have all 6 of their towers, with only one of them sitting at half HP.
Yeah, that is. If you could look at it that way, but you could also look at it that the Oni Warriors have a lot of gold to claim if they do get those towers, whereas the Leviathans have already claimed most of their gold prizes on the map. Also, gotta shout out Vote. How many times have we seen someone get away with 1 HP because he turned the lights off? Nika probably should have died once he went up into the sky there, but right when the lights went off, everyone had to back off. He was able to dash away. Vote's ults have been on point, and it's not just, you know, it's very easy to just use an X-Ball ult in the middle of a fight and say, yeah, I did things, but using it at those opportune moments to make sure to get your team out of trouble, that's what's really clutch here. So I got a highlight vote, making sure to get Neek out of trouble. He still has that Fire Giant buff and was able to come back in and make sure the rest of his team didn't die.
A group up of the Oni Warriors in mid. Meanwhile, the Leviathans have kind of spread themselves out. They've been able to go back to base, start picking up some of their items. Shinto finishes his starter item and building in towards a little bit of defense. Yarkor as well. And Panatom able to finish up their starter items. Only Zapman hasn't been able to finish his up just yet, being at least at that level. Obviously, Wrong, you're not level 17 yet, so he can't finish out his. So builds are starting to finalize on the side of Leviathans. Meanwhile, you look at the economy over on the side of the Oni Warriors, and you're still down full items on just about everybody.
I'm just imagining, because he's obviously going to go the Death's Embrace or the Death's Temper, but what if Zap sold that Death's Toll, built Odie Bow, and then imagine someone trying to hold 4 bows at once.
So
he's got Ichival, he's got Atlantis, he's got Silver Branch. If he had Odie Bow, how would Jing Wei with 2 hands wield 4 bows?
Well, here's the thing. Like, Kali could, in theory, at least use 2 of them. Like, actually use 2, because 2 arms, 2 arms per bow.
Right.
So Kali's the closest one probably in the game who could actually wield 4 bows properly. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow
Kepri's got to be able to.
He doesn't have hands.
Well,
Kepri doesn't have hands. He has little claws.
I mean, he's got lots of arms, though.
They don't have hands. There's no opposable thumbs to hold them, Trelly.
All right, well, we can discuss that maybe later off the cast, but I'm just
what
waiting
more
to see.
do we need to discuss from that?
I'm just waiting to see what Zapman does. Obviously, the Death's Temper is what I've seen more often than not, trying to get the Silver Branch stacks online. And it looks like I was right. The Oni Warriors are not going to be using this. As Panatom tries to get an ult here. Might catch Cubo, but the dash. A Trickster Spirit enough to get him out of trouble here. They have this FG, and finally, it has run off. So just stalling out this game once again. The Oni Warriors would have loved to try and grab one of those many towers on the map like we highlighted, but stepping up past that halfway point in the map seems to be the danger zone, and they were able to just stall this one out and maybe try to pull the Enhanced Fire Giant next time around.
It's a bit rough waters trying to go a little bit too deep to Leviathan's territory. 2-1-6 from Shinto this game. Still have to highlight, even though he hasn't gotten the most kills in the game, even sitting mid-pack of the damage charts, his ultimates have been so clutch for allowing this Leviathan's team to be able to find success in these fights. These sanctified fields, something that we always talk about. It's something that obviously Gore, in jest highlight earlier. Is the ult up? Yes, this should be a good fight. If not, probably not going to go so well. We didn't even talk about the fact that we finally got to see it used by Dardez, that the Oni Warriors have always had access to that ult, but just haven't used it up until now.
Lobster and Crab Rabe Kepri could use the bows.
We're back to this.
I'm just saying, he could claw it and then use the little nubbies to hold it back. We got time, and Hidden Fire Giant's not up yet. That's what they're going to be fighting for.
How long were you sitting there trying to think of those two to kind of justify that
Well,
one?
because there's the polar bear skin, and that has, I think he has like bug hands on that one. It's creepy. And then I was just thinking about the skins and which ones would be able to hold the bows. Finally, though, this enhanced, it's not enhanced actually. They did not wait long enough, so this will just be a regular Fire Giant. Neil and Vote stepping up, though.
They don't need to wait either because it's going down. Leviathans get the Fire Giant. Neil Ma goes in to transform, but as soon as he lands, he gets knocked up and brought right back to Earth. Zapman gets the credit for the kill. Cubo trying to pull somebody into the Pal-Lao, but will not do so. Dardez in the backline will only barely find a way out before Yarkor shuts him down. Panatom will find Vote all by himself, shuts down 2, and with Nika so low, Shinto grabbing 1, might as well give everybody an opportunity to pick up a kill in this fight. Cubo Fred dashed out as far as he can go, but it's another one for Zapman, a deicide for the Leviathans, and Trelly, this should be game number 2.
I would think so, unless everyone just dropped their computers and decided not to end the game here. A very dominant performance. Panatom looked unstoppable this game, just critting so hard. We saw him get to the back line. I mean, just absolutely two-tap everyone. These Sonic Booms were always on point. Rongyu goes 0-0-9, the perfect support stat line, making sure to keep everyone alive this whole game.
Well, the Fire Giant finally went down earlier on. Well, Neilma will come back to try and defend, but all he can really do is stare as his Titan goes down to the onslaught of the Atlantis Leviathans. A lot more fight out of the Warriors this game around, but still not enough. Charlie, it feels like the Leviathans are back.
Yeah, I'd say so. At least they looked very solid this time around. I mean, how quickly they can adapt to the meta has always been the question. And now that they finally found their place in what seems to be how this meta works right now, they're looking pretty darn good.
Yeah, right now, Atlantis Leviathans have finally been able to find their stride. It was something that Rongyu was talking about in the pregame interview, which is we took a little while to be able to figure out what the meta was. We didn't quite have an idea exactly how it would pan out, and now that it has, Seems they've been able to find that adaptation pretty quickly. Maybe at least good news for Dave is the fact that Neil Ma does place a lot of wards in these games, so he's getting at least some good fantasy points that way. But unfortunately for both me and Dave, we're not going to be getting too many out of the Oni Warriors set today.
Wait, I just realized Hindu drafted like all of the Leviathans.
Yeah, he drafted 3 of them.
He knew the script. He always does.
This is why it never counts for Hindu, man. That's going to be it for us on the cast. We're going to throw it over to the desk to close this out for the day.
I'm just happy that I've now found out that ward coverage is a countable stat in fantasy. Is it?
Yeah.
Do you know like what points? What the
Give me a
points?
sec, hold on.
All right, I'll let you look that up.
Twitter.com.
As the Atlantis Leviathans grab themselves a 2-0 win over the Oni Warriors. And again, this is how the matches have trended between these two teams as of late. In Masters, the Leviathans look good against the Warriors, but remember in Phase 1, Oni Warriors look near unstoppable. Neither of the composition the Oni Warriors try out here today end up working out. Gord, do you have an answer for me on
0.1 points per ward. So 10 wards is 1 point.
Got it. Okay. Wow. Need a little more than that from Neil. I need to moving forward.
Let me see if there's like a highest
We
ward
joke about
from that.
fantasy and those of us who have Oni Warriors on our fantasy team score because while this one was still a little bit more in question, still felt pretty one-sided for the Leviathans. Never really lost
It's
control.
very Levi's heavy early on, and you can see it a lot in the gold lead. That was kind of what a lot of the cast was just like, like the Warriors are able to get a kill, but the Leviathans are ahead. The Warriors get a kill, but even here it's 5-2, but there was like a 6,000 gold difference between the two. The good news is for the Warriors, that stagnated for a while, right? And that's what kind of kept this as close as it was, is that you get a massive lead early on if you're the Leviathans, but then it kind of stuck there for a little bit, and I think gave the Warriors just the right amount of touch to be able to get in, find some of those fights, test the waters, see what goes down, to the point where some of them it even felt like they had quote-unquote won engagements. They take away that fire giant, and that just prolongs the game. I think that's exactly what Trelli said afterward. It just delays the end of it because the Leviathans were still so far ahead in terms of their lead that without the fire giant, it just meant they weren't going to be able to win just yet. Then you get to the next fight, and well, we saw that. That ended the game. It was a full-on deicide.
Panatom, a great game here in game number 2, 7-1-6.
Very good game.
On the Mercury. and another game where we see a Mercury doesn't build rage this time because the joke was we had a Mercury with 1 stack on the rage.
Every
the
rage
entire
Mercury
game.
has lost all day.
And so Panatom realizes
He's too angry.
Panatom's
vibing.
He's already
not
mad.
raging.
He doesn't need the rage anyway. The end of that cast there, Gordon. We'll have a second to discuss this as we end the broadcast. Casters say Leviathans are back. Are you buying in?
I mean, they looked really good, right? Like that was really, really good. But I want to see, they play the Titans later this week, and I think that's where my mind is at, right? Titans win Masters, how the Leviathans maybe tackle a team like that. This is a really, a stellar, I think, approach, considering this was a team they lost to in Phase 1.
Agreed. Leviathans look very strong here in Masters, then again, to start off their Phase number 2. Panatom with me for the post-game interview now as the Atlantis Leviathans able to capitalize a 2-0 win. Panatom, congrats on the 2-0 win. You guys look very convincing.
Thank you.
Phase 1, and we talked to Rongi a little bit before the game. He was talking about how the Leviathans just needed to learn the meta maybe, and that's what happens in Phase 1. Do you feel like your team has a good grasp on the meta going into Phase 2?
Yeah, right now for sure, because it felt like it's the same meta as last phase, but kind of like nerfed, So yeah, we are ready.
As a jungler, we're in a meta where it is, especially during Masters, the hunter conversation has maybe gotten worse, where now you're playing against 3 hunters on a team at times. As a jungler, what's it like going into a composition of 3 hunters? Are you excited because they're squishy? Are you nervous because you're getting deleted? What's that like?
It's kind of like for the both parts, as you say, because you can one-shot the carries, but you can get one-shotted. And the awkward thing for me, if I'm playing with a hunter, I have to 1v3, kinda. I or be playing backlane. It's kind of pretty low pre-board,
Right. Well, look, the Mercury looks great for you today. The team looks solid. Excited to see what you guys can bring. Congrats on the win.
Thank you.
So the Atlantis Leviathans score able to grab themselves a convincing 2-0 win And hit or miss, maybe, up against the Hunters.
I'm going to be honest, I didn't think about the jungler perspective of the Warriors not being there anymore.
Right.
Like, it's not just like you lost a frontline. Like, that was your dude. Like, that was the guy you were going into the trenches with every single game.
Yeah.
And you just lost him. Like, you're going up there either alone or, like you said, you had to play in the back line.
And he's building crit.
That's a little wild to have to think about, is like that idea of, like, if I go in, I might just die, and like that's just it from the fight. Or I might two-shot everybody, and then with thumbs up, happy times. But like not having that warrior presence changes a lot from I think the jungler.
It is a unique time to be a jungler for sure, because the only warrior showed us a triple range damage composition and one that was a little bit more standard with just the two. It works out all day for the Leviathans, and as such, our second match of the day will end. Leviathans 2-0 over the Warriors. Earlier on today was the 2-1 win for the Camelot Kings over the Jade Dragons. Now the Jade Dragons will get their second chance at a win this week against the Valkyries, who have shown improvement as of late. And again, the brother matchup in the mid lane, always fun to watch. Bolts versus Scarabs score as well on Saturday before our triple header there on Sunday. I'll use my fantasy team again as a way of segueing the conversation.
Yeah.
The rest of my team is made up of Olympus Bolts, so I'm really hoping that they can carry some of the success over from Phase 1.
And maybe kind of the opposite for the Scarabs, right? Things did not go the way they wanted to. They got the one win, quote-unquote, the one win that mattered to them, which was beating the Valks or being above them in the standings. But, like, I think there's a lot of conversation with how we saw the Valks performing, like, towards the end of Masters and things like that. Scarabs getting eliminated by the Hounds during Masters. I think tomorrow's sets are going to be good looks into how the Valks are looking, especially up against a team like the Dragons, but what kind of Scarabs that we're going to be getting here in Phase 2?
Agreed. Jade Dragons versus Valhalla Valkyries into a Olympus Bolts versus Solar Scarabs. SPL starts at 1 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. Tune in at 11 a.m. Eastern Time for the SCC. On behalf of myself, Gormizer, all the other casters, everyone back in production, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.